I caught my wife and the neighbor making out on the rooftop. I didn't make a scene. I just silently locked the rooftop door, turned off the main power switch, and went on a week-long trip. The funny thing about Thursdays is that they're supposed to be unremarkable. Not quite the exhaustion of Wednesday, not yet the promise of Friday. Just Thursday. The kind of day where you pick up Thai food on the way home because you're too tired to cook, where you loosen your tie in the elevator and think about nothing more consequential than whether you remembered to record that documentary about deep-sea creatures. That's what I was thinking about when I pulled into our driveway at 6:47 p.m. The bioluminescent jellyfish I'd seen in the preview, how they create their own light in the darkness. I didn't know then how much I'd come to understand that particular survival mechanism. The house looked the same as it always did. Three-story townhouse in a neighborhood that real estate agents describe as up and coming, which really means the coffee costs $6 but the sidewalks still have cracks. Elena's car was in the garage. I could see the front bumper through the window. Derek's truck was parked on the street, which wasn't unusual. He lived 2 doors down and he was always around, helping with the gutters, borrowing tools, discussing the neighborhood watch app like it was matters of state. Derek, good old Derek with his easy smile and his home renovation YouTube channel with 400 subscribers. I grabbed the Thai food, 2 orders of pad see-ew, one with extra lime because Elena liked it that way, and let myself in through the side door. The house was quiet, not silent, but quiet in that specific way that makes you strain to hear something, anything, to confirm you're not alone. "Elena," I called while setting the food on the kitchen counter. "I got dinner." No response. I loosened my tie the rest of the way, hung it over the back of a kitchen chair. My reflection caught in the microwave door, 38 years old, graying at the temples, the kind of face people call trustworthy when they mean forgettable. I'd been with Elena for 11 years, married for 8 of them. We'd bought this house together, painted the bedroom, that shade of blue she'd obsessed over for weeks, planted the Japanese maple in the backyard that was finally starting to look like something. 11 years. That's 4,000 days, give or take. Roughly 96,000 hours of building something you believe is permanent. I checked my phone, no messages from her. The last text was from that morning. "Don't forget we're out of coffee filters." I had forgotten, actually. I'd meant to stop at the store but got distracted by the jellyfish documentary listing. The house felt strange. Empty, but not empty. I walked through the living room, past the couch where we'd binged 3 seasons of that show about time travel, past the bookshelf with our wedding photo where we both looked younger and more certain about everything. The kitchen was clean, dishes done. Elena was particular about that. She couldn't stand waking up to a dirty kitchen, said it made her feel like the day was already behind before it started. I checked the backyard through the sliding glass door. Empty. The Japanese maple swayed slightly in the early evening breeze. Maybe she was upstairs, taking a bath perhaps. She did that sometimes when work stressed her out. She managed accounts for a mid-sized marketing firm, the kind of job that sounds impressive at parties but slowly eats away at your soul through spreadsheets and impossible deadlines. I climbed the stairs. Our bedroom door was open, bed made with those decorative pillows she insisted on, even though we just threw them on the floor every night. Bathroom empty, tub dry. That's when I heard it. Faint, almost imagined. Laughter coming from above. We had roof access. It was one of the selling points of the house. A small rooftop terrace with a view of the city skyline. Elena had fallen in love with it instantly. Talked about summer evenings with wine and string lights, hosting friends for sunset cocktails. We'd been up there maybe 6 times in 3 years. Life has a way of making you forget the things that once excited you. The access was through a door at the end of the 3rd floor hallway. I walked toward it, my footsteps quiet on the hardwood. I wasn't trying to be stealthy. I wasn't suspicious. I was just curious, and maybe something else. Something my body understood before my mind caught up. The door was slightly ajar. I pushed it open slowly, stepped onto the narrow staircase that led up to the roof. The laughter again, clearer now. Elena's laugh, that specific one she saved for moments of genuine delight. The one I used to be able to coax out of her with a well-timed joke or an unexpected gift. And then another voice, lower, male. My heart didn't race. That's what surprised me most about that moment. I'd always imagined that discovering something like this would be cinematic, pulse pounding, vision tunneling, the world tilting on its axis. But instead, there was just this strange, cold clarity, like stepping into a room and finally seeing it without the furniture, seeing the dimensions for what they really are. I climbed the stairs. Quietly now, yes, deliberately, each step measured and precise. The rooftop door was propped open with a brick, one of the decorative bricks from Elena's failed herb garden project. I could see them before they saw me. The sun was setting, painting everything in shades of amber and rose gold. Romantic, if you were the type to notice such things. They were by the edge, near the railing, silhouetted against the skyline. Elena was leaning against Derek. His arm was around her waist, not in a friendly way, not in a neighborly way, in the way that said ownership, intimacy, familiarity. She said something I couldn't hear, and he laughed, pulled her closer. Then he kissed her. Not a peck, not a brief, friendly brush of lips. A real kiss, the kind that's been practiced, perfected over time. I watched for maybe 10 seconds, maybe 30. Time does strange things when the foundation of your life cracks beneath you. Elena's hand was on his chest. Derek's fingers were in her hair. They moved together with an ease that spoke of repetition. This wasn't new. This wasn't spontaneous. This was something that had been happening long enough to develop its own rhythm. I thought about the Thai food cooling on the counter downstairs. Extra lime. I thought about Derek borrowing my socket wrench set last month, shaking my hand, looking me in the eye, thanking me. I thought about Elena asking me last week if I'd mind if she started going to a yoga class on Tuesday evenings, to de-stress, to find her center. I thought about the house, the maple tree, the 96,000 hours. And then I thought about what kind of man I wanted to be in this moment. You see, there's a version of this story where I storm onto that rooftop, where I shout rage, demand explanations, where I become the wounded animal, all noise and fury. That's what the script says, right? That's what we're supposed to do when betrayal announces itself so clearly. We're supposed to make it known, make it loud, make it impossible to ignore. But I've never been much for following scripts. Instead, I stepped back, carefully, silently. I descended those stairs like a ghost, my mind working with a precision that surprised even me. I wasn't calm exactly. There was a storm inside me, building pressure behind my eyes, in my chest, in the tight clench of my jaw. But I learned long ago that storms are more powerful when contained, directed. I reached the third-floor hallway and closed the rooftop access door, gently, just enough to hear the click of the latch catching. Then I locked it. It was a simple deadbolt, installed for security. Elena had insisted on it, worried about break-ins through the roof access, read some article about it happening in urban areas. The irony of that wasn't lost on me. The lock turned smoothly. Click. I stood there for a moment, my hand still on the lock, breathing steadily. Above me, I could hear their muffled laughter. They had no idea. They were still in their bubble of betrayal, still believing they were clever, still thinking they'd carved out this secret space that belonged only to them. I walked downstairs, through the hallway with our wedding photo, past the kitchen where the Thai food sat in its plastic bag, into the basement. Our house was old enough to still have an actual electrical panel with a main breaker. I'd learned its location after we'd first moved in, after a winter storm knocked out power, and I'd had to figure out which breaker controlled what. Elena had teased me about my need to understand systems, to map out the mechanics of things. I opened the panel. The main switch was at the top, large, industrial, definitive. I put my hand on it, paused. Above me, through 2 floors and a roof, my wife was kissing our neighbor. On our roof, in our home, using the privacy I provided through my absence to build something that required my ignorance to survive. I flipped the switch. The house went dark, silent. The hum of the refrigerator stopped. The air conditioning fell quiet. The small digital clock on the basement wall blinked out. The sun was setting. In maybe an hour, it would be dark outside too. I left the basement, walked back upstairs, and grabbed my laptop bag from where I dropped it by the door. I took my car keys from the hook. I picked up my phone and, after a moment's thought, left it on the kitchen counter, right next to the Thai food. Then I walked out of the house, got in my car, and drove away. No note, no explanation, no dramatic confrontation, just silence. As I pulled out of the driveway, I saw Derek's truck still parked on the street. In maybe 20 minutes, they'd realize the power was out. In maybe 30, they'd try to come back and find the door locked. In maybe an hour, as darkness fell and their phones inevitably died, neither of them were the type to keep their batteries above 50%. They'd start to understand that something had shifted. But by then, I'd be gone. I drove toward the highway, no particular destination in mind. My hands were steady on the wheel, my breathing was even. Inside me, the storm continued to build, but it was contained now, purposeful. I had a week of vacation time saved up. I'd been planning to use it for a trip we'd discussed, a bed and breakfast upstate, reconnecting, remembering why we'd chosen each other. Elena had seemed enthusiastic about it, had even sent me links to restaurants in the area. Had she been planning to bring Derek? Had she been laughing about it with him, about how oblivious I was, how easy I made it for them? The highway stretched out before me, empty in the early evening light. I merged on, headed north, though north meant nothing specific, just away. My phone sat on the kitchen counter, probably lighting up already with messages I'd never see. The Thai food would get cold, then warm, then rotten. The power would stay off until someone turned it back on, and that someone wouldn't be me. On the roof of my house in the gathering darkness, two people who'd built their intimacy on the foundation of my trust would slowly come to realize that the rules had changed, that the stability they'd relied on, my predictability, my absence, my willingness to see what I wanted to see, had evaporated. The sun dipped below the horizon as I drove. The first stars began to appear, tiny points of light in the vast darkness. Bioluminescent, I thought, creating their own light because the world around them offered none. I had a week, 7 days, 168 hours. A lot can change in that amount of time. A lot can be discovered. A lot can be planned. I pressed the accelerator slightly, watched the speedometer climb. Behind me, the city lights grew smaller. Ahead of me, the road opened up like a question I was finally ready to answer. The storm inside me wasn't anger, I realized. Not primarily, it was something colder, more patient. It was the recognition that I'd been living in a story where I was the only one who didn't know the plot. And now that I did, now that I'd seen behind the curtain, I had choices to make. I could be the betrayed husband, broken and raging, or I could be something else entirely. The night settled around me as I drove, dark, quiet, full of possibility. I chose the silence. For now, I drove for 4 hours before I stopped. Not because I was tired, adrenaline and something harder, colder, kept me alert, but because I'd crossed into another state and the gaslight had been blinking for 20 miles. A small town, the kind that exists primarily as a rest stop between places that matter. A gas station, a diner, a motel with a flickering vacancy sign. The holy trinity of American transience. I filled the tank, paid in cash. The attendant was a kid, maybe 19, more interested in his phone than in the hollow-eyed man buying premium unleaded at 11 p.m. on a Thursday. I envied him his disinterest. His world was still small enough to be comprehensible. The motel was called The Pines, though I saw no pine trees anywhere. Just a parking lot, a row of doors, and that flickering sign promising availability. The woman at the front desk had the weathered look of someone who'd stopped asking questions long ago. "How many nights?" she asked, not looking up from her crossword puzzle. "A week," I heard myself say. She quoted a price. I paid. Cash again. She handed me a key, an actual metal key, not a card. Room 7. The room smelled of disinfectant and old cigarettes, the kind of smell that seeps into walls and becomes permanent. A bed with a floral comforter that had seen better decades. A television bolted to the dresser. A bathroom with a shower that probably ran either scalding or ice cold. No in between. It was perfect. I sat on the edge of the bed and let the silence settle around me. No phone, No connection to the life I'd left behind. Just me and the weight of what I'd witnessed, what I'd done, what I was now choosing to become. They'd be off the roof by now, somehow. Maybe Derek had climbed down using the fire escape on the side of the building. It connected to the third-floor window, which wasn't locked from the inside. Maybe they'd called for help, though that would require explaining why they were trapped on my roof together after dark. Maybe they'd spent hours up there, the summer night cooling around them, their romantic escapade turning into a comedy of errors. Good. I lay back on the bed, staring at the water-stained ceiling. My mind, which had been remarkably quiet during the drive, began to organize itself. This is what I do, what I've always done. I'm a forensic accountant. My job, my entire professional existence, is built on finding patterns in numbers, discovering the stories that people try to hide in spreadsheets and ledgers. I follow the money. I uncover the lies. I've sent people to prison by finding the decimal points they thought no one would notice. And now I would apply those same skills to my own life. The betrayal wasn't just physical. It wasn't just the image of Elena pressed against Derek, their mouths finding each other with practiced ease. It was the architecture of lies that must have been constructed to make it possible. The late nights at work, the yoga classes, the weekend errands that took hours, the emotional distance I'd attributed to stress, to the natural ebb and flow of long-term relationships. I'd been reading the wrong ledger. Sleep came eventually, fitful and full of dreams I couldn't quite remember. I woke at dawn, light streaming through the thin curtains, and felt something I hadn't expected. Clarity. The storm inside me had settled into something more useful. Not calm exactly, more like focus. The kind of focus that comes when you finally accept that a problem is solvable, even if the solution will be painful. I showered, the water was predictably erratic, and dressed in the clothes I'd been wearing. No luggage, no preparation. Just me and whatever I could piece together from this distance. The diner next door served coffee strong enough to strip paint and eggs that had probably seen better days. I ate mechanically, my mind already working through the list. First, I needed to know how long this had been happening. The duration mattered. A moment of weakness is different from a sustained campaign of deception. Second, I needed to understand the financial implications. Our accounts were joint. Our mortgage was shared. Our lives were intertwined in ways that would require surgical precision to separate. Third, I needed evidence. Not for court necessarily, though that might come later. For myself. For the moment when Elena would inevitably try to rewrite the narrative, to minimize, to explain away. I needed the truth, documented and undeniable. The diner had Wi-Fi. I didn't have my phone, but I had my laptop in my bag. I'd grabbed it reflexively, muscle memory from years of working remotely. I opened it, connected to the network, and began. I started with our credit card statements. We had 3 cards, 2 joint, 1 in just my name. I logged into the accounts, grateful that I managed our finances and knew all the passwords. Elena had never been interested in the administrative side of our life together. She'd called it not her strength, which I'd accepted without question. Another thing I'd been blind to. The statements loaded, months of transactions, each one a tiny story. Groceries, gas, restaurants. I clicked on the filter, sorted by category. Dining establishments. My eyes scanned the list, looking for patterns. There. Lunch at Cafe Meridian. 4 times in the past month, each time on a Tuesday. Elena worked on Tuesdays. So did I. Cafe Meridian was nowhere near her office. It was, however, 6 blocks from Derek's apartment, the one he'd rented when he and his wife separated last year. The separation Elena had been so sympathetic about. Poor Derek, she'd said. It's so hard when marriages fall apart. Yes, so hard. I kept scrolling. A wine bar downtown, twice in the past 2 weeks. Both times on evenings when Elena had said she was meeting the girls from work. I'd never questioned it. Why would I? I trusted her. Trust. What a fragile, foolish thing. The transactions painted a picture. Small purchases at first, easy to overlook. Coffee here, lunch there. But they escalated. A hotel charge from 6 weeks ago that I'd somehow missed. Or had I seen it and accepted her explanation about a work conference? I couldn't remember now. The lies had become the wallpaper of our life, so pervasive I'd stopped seeing them. I pulled up our phone records next. We had a family plan, and the online account showed call and text logs. I didn't have access to the content of the messages, but I could see the patterns. Derek's number appeared constantly, daily, sometimes hourly. Late nights when I thought Elena was asleep beside me, she must have been texting him. Early mornings when I was in the shower, lunch breaks. The communication was relentless, obsessive. My coffee went cold as I compiled the data. Dates, times, locations, amounts. I created a spreadsheet. Habit from work, probably, but also necessity. I needed to see the scope of it, to understand the scale of my own blindness. 3 months. That's how far back the clear evidence went. 3 months of hotel rooms and wine bars and lunch dates. 3 months of lies delivered with a smile, of kisses given to me while her mind was elsewhere, of I love yous that meant nothing. But something told me it was longer. The ease with which they'd been together on that rooftop spoke of more than 3 months of familiarity. The way Derek's hand had known exactly where to rest on her hip, the way she'd leaned into him without hesitation. This had been building for longer. Maybe since Derek's separation, maybe before. I closed the laptop and stared out the diner window at the parking lot. An elderly couple was getting out of their car, moving slowly, holding hands. 40 years of marriage, maybe more. They'd weathered things I couldn't imagine. Or maybe they hadn't. Maybe their version of trust had never been tested like this. The waitress refilled my coffee without asking. I thanked her and she moved on, uninterested in whatever drama had brought a man in rumpled clothes to her diner on a Friday morning. Friday. They would be panicking by now. Elena would have tried to call me. My phone sitting on the kitchen counter would be full of messages, missed calls, voicemails that probably started confused and escalated to worried, and maybe, if she had any self-awareness at all, to guilty, or maybe not. Maybe she was angry. How dare I lock them on the roof? How dare I leave without explanation? Maybe she'd already crafted a narrative where she was the victim, where my actions were the betrayal, not hers. That's what people do, isn't it? They rewrite history to cast themselves as the hero, or at least the sympathetic character. They adjust the facts to fit the story they need to tell themselves to sleep at night. But I had the facts now, the real ones, documented, time-stamped, undeniable. I paid for my breakfast and went back to the motel room. I had more research to do. The next piece was Derek. I knew him as the friendly neighbor, the guy who was always around, helpful to a fault. But who was he really? What else was he hiding? I logged into LinkedIn. Derek's profile was professional enough, contractor, independent, specialized in renovations. His work history showed a series of jobs, none lasting more than a year or two. That could mean he was in demand, or it could mean something else. I made a note. Then I searched public records. Court records, specifically. I knew his wife had filed for separation, but I didn't know the details. The records were illuminating. His wife, Janet, hadn't just filed for separation. She'd filed a restraining order first, later dropped, but still. The separation documents cited irreconcilable differences, that catch-all phrase that could mean anything. But there were notes about contested assets, about debts Derek had apparently hidden from his wife. Credit card debt, a loan she hadn't known about. Derek was in financial trouble. Interesting. I kept digging. His contracting business had a website, professional but sparse. No reviews, no testimonials. A contact number that led to a voicemail. This wasn't a thriving business. This was a front, a veneer of legitimacy over something far shakier. And now I understood something else. Derek wasn't just having an affair with my wife. He was also positioning himself. We had a nice house, joint savings that I'd carefully built over the years, a stable income from my job. If Elena and I divorced, she'd be entitled to half of everything. And if Elena and Derek ended up together, he'd have access to that too. Was that his plan? Charm the married woman next door, break up her marriage, profit from the wreckage? It seemed calculating, almost sociopathic. But then again, so did what I'd witnessed on that rooftop. I spent the rest of the day researching. By evening, I had a comprehensive picture of my own life. The finances, the assets, the liabilities. I had documentation of the affair spanning months. I had insight into Derek's character and motivations, but I didn't have a plan yet. I walked to a convenience store down the road and bought basic supplies, toiletries, a change of clothes, some snacks. The normalcy of the transaction felt absurd. I was buying deodorant while my marriage collapsed in absentia. That night, I sat on the motel bed with the laptop open and the lights off, the screen casting blue shadows across the room. I'd opened our shared photo album, the cloud storage where Elena uploaded pictures. I scrolled through them. Our vacation last year, we'd gone to the coast, walked on the beach, eaten seafood at a restaurant overlooking the water. Elena was smiling in every picture. I was smiling too. We looked happy. Were we? Or was I seeing what I wanted to see even then? There were photos from our anniversary dinner 3 months ago. I'd made reservations at her favorite restaurant, bought her a necklace she'd been eyeing. She'd cried when she opened it, said she didn't deserve me. I'd thought it was emotion. Now I wondered if it was guilt. I closed the photos and opened a new document, blank page, cursor blinking. I needed to decide what I wanted, not what I should want, not what was expected of me, not what would make me look good or bad. What did I actually want from this situation? Did I want to save the marriage? The very thought felt like prodding a wound. Could trust be rebuilt after being demolished so thoroughly? Could I look at Elena and not see her pressed against Derek, their mouths together, their bodies familiar? Could I sleep next to her and not wonder where her mind was? Did I want revenge? The word felt satisfying in a dark way. They'd hurt me. Why shouldn't I hurt them back? But revenge is messy, and I'd seen enough cases in my work where people destroyed themselves trying to destroy others. Did I want justice? That was different from revenge. Justice was about accountability, about consequences that fit the actions. Not punishment for its own sake, but truth made undeniable. I typed a single word on the document. Truth. That's what I wanted. The truth complete and irrefutable. Not for the courts, though that might come. Not for public humiliation, though that had its appeal. But for myself, for my own sanity, for the ability to stand in the wreckage of what they'd done and know exactly what had happened, to have the evidence that would make gaslighting impossible. And I wanted them to understand consequences, not rage, not violence, not the satisfaction of a blow delivered in anger. Something quieter, something that would last. I thought about the rooftop, about locking that door, flipping that switch. It had been instinctual, but it had also been perfect. No confrontation, no chance for them to spin narratives in real time. Just the cold reality of their situation, trapped together in the darkness of their own making. They'd had to solve that problem together, had to figure out how to get down, how to explain it, how to contact me. And when they couldn't, when my silence had became the only response to their transgression, they'd had to sit with what they'd done. That's what I wanted more of. Not dramatic confrontation, but the steady, undeniable weight of truth. Evidence that couldn't be explained away. Consequences that unfolded naturally from their own choices. I started a new list. Secure finances. Document everything. Consult a lawyer. Protect assets. Plan the reveal. The reveal. Yes, there would be a moment when I returned, when I faced them. And when that moment came, I wanted to be armed, not with anger, but with information, with proof, with the kind of quiet certainty that makes denials impossible and excuses meaningless. I had 6 days left, 6 days to prepare, 6 days of silence while they wondered, worried, waited. 6 days for them to understand that the game they had been playing had fundamentally changed. I closed the laptop and lay back on the bed. Outside, a car pulled into the parking lot, headlights sweeping across the ceiling of my room before going dark. The night settled around me, quiet and full of possibility. For the first time since I'd seen them on that roof, I felt something like peace. Not happiness, not closure, but purpose. I knew what I needed to do, and I had 6 days to do it. Saturday morning arrived with rain. I watched it from the motel window, fat drops splattering against the glass, turning the parking lot into a mirror of gray skin. Rain has a way of making time feel suspended, doesn't it? Like the world is holding its breath, waiting. I'd slept better than expected. Not well, but better. The decision to act rather than react had settled something in me. I wasn't a victim in this story anymore. I was an investigator, a planner, an architect of my own future. After breakfast at the diner, same booth, same strong coffee, same disinterested waitress, I returned to my room and opened the laptop. Today was about the money. I've spent my career untangling financial deceptions. Companies that hide losses in subsidiary accounts. Executives who funnel funds through shell corporations. Partners who embezzle slowly, counting on the complexity to provide cover. The common thread in all of it is arrogance. The belief that no one will look closely enough, that the numbers are too boring to command attention. Elena had that same arrogance. She'd never cared about our finances, leaving it all to me. But she'd also made assumptions. She'd assumed I wouldn't look. She'd assumed her patterns were invisible. She was wrong. I started with our joint savings account. $47,000 carefully accumulated over years. Bonuses saved, spending moderated, a down payment fund for the bigger house we talked about. Or had she talked about it just to keep up appearances? I couldn't move the money. That would be legally problematic and strategically foolish. But I needed to document everything. Screenshot after screenshot, I captured our current balances, our transaction histories, our investment accounts. Every asset we shared, I photographed and saved. Then I moved to the debts, our mortgage, car payments, credit cards, everything that tied us together financially. I created a comprehensive spreadsheet, assets on one side, liabilities on the other. The accounting of a marriage reduced to numbers. It was clarifying, cold, but clarifying. My phone was still on the kitchen counter at home. By now, Elena would be frantic. 2 days with no word from me. She'd probably tried calling my office, only to learn I'd taken vacation time. She might have even filed a missing person report, though that would require explaining the circumstances. My husband locked me on the roof with my lover and then disappeared. Probably wasn't a story she wanted to tell. Or maybe she was angry, indignant. How dare I leave without explanation? How dare I make her worry? The mental gymnastics required to make herself the victim would be Olympic level, but people are capable of extraordinary self-deception when their ego is at stake. I wondered if Derek was still coming around. Probably. He'd be comforting her, reassuring her. He's crazy, he might say. This isn't your fault. They'd bond over my absence, my unreasonableness. They'd craft a shared narrative where they were the injured parties. Let them. While they spun their stories, I was building mine, with evidence. My next stop was legal research. I spent hours reading about divorce law in our state. Fault-based versus no fault. Property division, adultery and its impact on settlements. The more I read, the more I understood that the law was a blunt instrument. Adultery didn't guarantee anything in court. Judges were often more interested in equitable distribution than punishment. But the law wasn't my only tool. I made a list of what I needed from a divorce attorney. Protection of premarital assets, my savings before marriage, inheritance from my grandfather, fair division of joint assets, documentation strategy for the affair, understanding of timelines and processes. I searched for attorneys in our city, read reviews, checked credentials, found 3 who specialized in cases involving infidelity. I emailed all of them using my work email, still accessible from anywhere, and requested consultations for the following week. After I returned, after the reveal. By afternoon, my eyes were burning from screen time. I needed to move, to think away from the laptop. I grabbed the motel umbrella, a flimsy thing that probably came with the room, and walked. The small town was quiet in the rain. A few shops, a library, a church with a steeple that needed painting. I walked without destination, letting my mind wander. I thought about Elena, not the Elena on the rooftop, but the Elena I'd married. The woman who'd laughed at my terrible jokes, who'd held my hand at my father's funeral, who'd danced with me in the kitchen to songs from the 80s. Where had that woman gone? When had she decided that what we had wasn't enough? Or had I invented her? Had I built an image of a wife I wanted and projected it onto someone who never existed? These questions had no answers. Not yet. Maybe not ever. I ducked into the library to escape the rain. It was small but warm, staffed by a woman with gray hair and reading glasses who smiled at me without curiosity. I wandered the stacks, running my fingers along spines of books. Mysteries, romances, biographies. I pulled one off the shelf randomly. A biography of someone I'd never heard of. I sat in a corner chair and opened it, though I didn't really read. The words swam on the page, meaningless. What was I doing? Hiding in a motel, researching my wife's betrayal like it was a case file. Was this strength or cowardice? Wisdom or avoidance? I'd left without a word, locked them on a roof, turned off the power. These were not the actions of a rational man. They were the actions of someone wounded, reactive, desperate for control in a situation that had none. But they were also strategic. Wasn't that what I was telling myself? That the silence was a tool, the absence a statement? That by removing myself from the equation, I was forcing them to confront their own actions without my presence to absorb their guilt? Maybe. Or maybe I was just running away. I closed the book and stared at the rain through the library window. The truth was probably somewhere in between. I was hurt and strategic. Wounded and calculating. Human. The affair hurt. Of course it did. But what hurt more was the architecture of it. The scaffolding of lies that had to be built and maintained. Every "I love you" she'd said to me while texting Derek. Every explanation for her absences that I'd accepted without question. Every morning, she'd kiss me goodbye, knowing she'd be seeing him for lunch. That took effort. Sustained, deliberate effort. Every lie was a choice, and she'd made hundreds of them. And Derek. Good old Derek. He'd shaken my hand, borrowed my tools, made small talk about the neighborhood. He'd looked me in the eye knowing he was sleeping with my wife. That took a special kind of contempt. For me, for decency, for the basic social contract that says you don't betray someone who trusts you. The anger rose in my chest, hot and sudden. I let it come, then let it pass. Anger was fuel, but it was also a trap. I needed to stay focused. I left the library and walked back to the motel. The rain had lessened to a drizzle. My clothes were damp, my shoes squeaking on the wet pavement, but my mind was clear again. Back in the room, I made a decision. I needed more information. Not about the affair. I had enough evidence of that. I needed to know about Derek specifically, about who he really was. I logged into social media, not my accounts. I didn't want any digital trace of my activity, but Derek's profiles were public. His Instagram showed the same curated life everyone displays. Project photos from his renovation work, sunset pictures, inspirational quotes about hard work and integrity. The irony was thick, but social media is just the surface. The real information is in the cracks. I searched his name along with his ex-wife's, found her profile. She'd posted less and less over the past year, but before the separation there were signs. Cryptic posts about trust and betrayal, a quote about knowing your worth, a photo of her with friends captioned, "Real ones who have my back." The narrative was forming. Derek had cheated before, on his wife, and it had cost him his marriage. I messaged her, used my personal email, not social media, kept it simple. "Janet, I apologize for contacting you out of the blue. My name is Marcus Chen. I live in the same neighborhood as your ex-husband, Derek. I recently discovered information that I believe parallels your own experience. I would appreciate the opportunity to speak with you at your convenience. I understand if you prefer not to respond. Sincerely, Marcus." It was a risk. She might not respond. She might tell Derek. She might think I was crazy. But I had a hunch. The kind of hunch that comes from years of following financial trails to their human conclusions. Derek had a pattern. People like him always do. I sent the email and closed the laptop. My hands were slightly shaky. The adrenaline of taking action, of doing something concrete. That night, I walked to the gas station and bought a prepaid phone. Basic, cheap, pay-as-you-go. I needed a way to communicate, but not through my regular channels. Not yet. I texted my brother first. We weren't close, but he was family. "Hey, it's Marcus. I'm fine, but dealing with a personal situation. Using a temporary number. Please don't worry. We'll explain soon. His response came quickly. WTF? Elena has been calling everyone. Said you disappeared. Are you safe? Safe. Need space. Please don't tell her you heard from me. A pause, then. Okay, but I'm worried. Call me when you can. Will do. Thanks. I turned off the phone and plugged it in to charge. My brother would keep my secret. He'd never liked Elena, had told me once that she seemed calculating. I dismissed it as his usual cynicism. Maybe he'd seen something I hadn't. Sunday, day 4 of my week, 3 days until I had to go back and face the reality I'd fled. I spent the day doing something I rarely did. Nothing. I sat in the motel room, occasionally reading the news on my laptop, occasionally staring at the wall. The weight of everything I'd learned, everything I was planning, needed time to settle. In my mind, I rehearsed conversations. What would I say to Elena when I returned? How would I reveal what I knew? Would I be calm or cold, hurt or indifferent? The variations were endless, each scenario branching into possibilities I couldn't fully control. The truth was, I didn't know how I'd react when I saw her. The distance was giving me clarity, but distance also distorted things. In person, with her tears and explanations, her justifications and manipulations, would I stay strong or would I crumble, forgive, try to rebuild on a foundation of ash? I couldn't let that happen. Monday morning brought a response from Janet. Marcus, I had a feeling this might happen eventually. Derek doesn't change. He just changes targets. I'm sorry you're going through this. If you want to talk, I'm available. Here's my number. She'd included her phone number. I stared at it for a long time. Then I called. Janet's voice was tired but kind. She spoke carefully, like someone who'd learned that words could be weapons. Thank you for reaching out, she said. It took courage. Thank you for responding, I replied. I wasn't sure you would. When I saw your email, I knew. That neighborhood, Derek's still there. I figured it was only a matter of time. I told her what I'd seen. The rooftop, the easy intimacy. She listened without interrupting. That's his pattern, she said when I finished. The neighbor's wife. When we were married, it was his business partner's girlfriend. Before that, in his last job, a colleague's wife. He targets women who are already attached. It's a game to him. A game? Control, conquest. I don't know exactly, but it's not about love. It's never about love with Derek. It's about winning something that belongs to someone else. I felt sick. How long did it go on? With you? 2 years before I found out. Then he gaslit me for another 6 months. Made me think I was crazy, paranoid, controlling. It almost worked, but I finally found proof. Hotel receipts, text messages, the usual sloppy evidence men like him leave because they think they're smarter than everyone. What did you do? I left. It was the hardest thing I've ever done, but I left. The restraining order was because he didn't handle it well. He's charming until he's not, until you become a threat to his narrative. I absorbed this. Janet, I need to ask you something. It might seem strange. Go ahead. Is Derek dangerous? Physically? She was quiet for a moment. He never hit me, but he has a temper. When things don't go his way, he can be unpredictable. Mostly he uses words manipulation, but I wouldn't underestimate him. Thank you for telling me this. Marcus, whatever you're planning, be careful. Not just with Derek, with yourself. This kind of betrayal, it changes you. Don't let it make you into someone you don't want to be. Her words stayed with me long after we hung up. Don't let it make you into someone you don't want to be. Was I becoming that already? The meticulous planning, the gathering of evidence, the strategic silence. Was this justice or vengeance? Was I seeking truth or control? I looked at my spreadsheets, my notes, my documentation. All of it prepared with the precision of a forensic case. But this wasn't a case. This was my life, my marriage, my heart fractured and bleeding behind the armor of logic I'd constructed. I closed the laptop and lay on the bed, staring at the ceiling. 3 more days. 3 more days of planning, preparing, protecting myself from the fallout of someone else's choices. And then I'd go home, and everything would change. Tuesday came with clarity I didn't expect. I woke at dawn, my mind already sharp, already working through the final phases of my plan. 5 days in this anonymous motel room had stripped away the shock, the raw hurt, the reactive anger. What remained was purpose. I showered, dressed, and went to the diner. Same booth, same coffee. But I wasn't the same man who'd stumbled out in here last Thursday night, hollow-eyed and reeling. The waitress, I'd learned her name was Carol, actually looked at me this time. "You look better," she said, refilling my cup. "I feel better," I told her. And it was true. "Whatever you're working through looks like you're getting somewhere." "I think I am." She nodded, that universal gesture of people who've seen enough life to recognize survival when they see it, and moved on to the next table. I ate breakfast slowly, savoring the normalcy of it. In 2 days, I drive back to the city, back to the house with the rooftop where my marriage had died, back to Elena and whatever performance she'd prepared for my return, back to Derek and his predatory charm. But I wouldn't be going back as the man who'd left. That man had been operating on incomplete information, making decisions based on trust that wasn't deserved. The man returning would have knowledge, evidence, and a plan. After breakfast, I called the first divorce attorney from my motel room phone. Her name was Sandra Walsh, and her reviews mentioned words like thorough, strategic, and doesn't suffer fools. "Mr. Chen," she said when I explained my situation in broad strokes, "based on what you're telling me, you've been doing your homework. That's good. Most people come to me emotional and unprepared. You sound neither. I've had time to think." "Time is valuable. So is evidence. You mentioned you have documentation? Financial records showing suspicious transactions, phone logs, credit card statements, and a witness who can testify to Derek's pattern of behavior." "Janet Morrison, yes, I know the case. I actually consulted with her attorney during their divorce. Small world, as it turned out. Her testimony could be valuable. Establishes pattern." "What about the affair itself, in terms of the divorce settlement?" Sandra was direct. "Our state is no fault, which means adultery won't automatically impact asset division. However, if you can prove dissipation of marital assets, money spent on the affair itself, that could affect the settlement. Hotel rooms, gifts, dinners at restaurants you weren't part of, all of that counts." I thought about my spreadsheet, the hotel charge, the wine bars, the lunches at Cafe Meridian. "I have documentation of that." "Good. Now here's my advice. Don't confront her until we've spoken in person. You need to understand your legal position fully before you reveal what you know. Knowledge is leverage, and leverage is protection. I'm planning to return Thursday. Can you come see me Friday morning? 9 o'clock? I'll be there. Mr. Chen, one more thing. The rooftop incident. The power switch. While understandable given the circumstances, try not to do anything else that could be construed as erratic or retaliatory. Courts look at behavior patterns. You want to look rational, measured." "Understood." After we hung up, I felt something settle in my chest. The attorney confirmed what I'd been feeling, that my approach wasn't crazy, that documentation and strategy were the right path, that quiet, evidence-based action was more powerful than explosive reaction. I spent the rest of Tuesday preparing. I organized all my evidence into folders on my laptop: financial records, phone logs, photos of our accounts, notes from my conversation with Janet, everything time-stamped and cataloged. Then I wrote a letter, not to Elena, to myself. "Marcus, when you walk back into that house, remember what you know, remember what you saw, remember the 3 months of hotel rooms, the daily texts to another man, the lies delivered with kisses. Remember that trust, once broken this completely, cannot be rebuilt. You will want to forgive. You will want to believe her explanations. You will want to avoid the pain of divorce, the complexity of untangling a life. These feelings are natural, but they are not wise. She made choices, hundreds of them. Every day for months, she chose deception. Every time she said, 'I love you,' she chose to layer that lie on top of all the others. Every time she invented excuses for her absences, she chose him over honesty. You deserve better than to be someone's backup plan. You deserve a partner who chooses you openly, honestly, daily. You are enough. This wasn't about your inadequacy. This was about her choices. Stay strong. Trust the evidence. Trust your worth. The man you're becoming is better than the man who couldn't see the truth. I read it twice, then saved it. When the moment came, when Elena's tears and explanations threatened to erode my resolve, I would read it again, Wednesday. My last full day before returning. I woke early and drove. Not toward home, just into the countryside. The weather had cleared, and the world was washed clean from days of rain. Fields stretched out on either side of the road, green and alive. I thought about what Janet had said, about not letting this make me into someone I didn't want to be. Who did I want to be? I wanted to be fair, not vindictive. I wanted the divorce to be equitable, not punitive. Elena had betrayed me, but she was still a human being, still the woman I'd loved for 11 years, even if that love had been built on sand. I wanted to be honest. The truth would come out, all of it. No hiding, no games. She'd be confronted with what she'd done and she'd have to reckon with it. I wanted to be whole. Not now. Now I was fractured, broken in places I couldn't yet map. But eventually, I wanted to heal, to move forward, to build a life that wasn't defined by this betrayal. And I wanted to be free of the lies, of the pretense, of a marriage that was already dead, though I'd been the last to know it. I pulled over at a scenic overlook. Below, a valley spread out, dotted with farms and intersected by a silver ribbon of river. Beautiful, indifferent to human drama. I got out of the car and breathed deep. The air was clean, smelling of earth and growing things. The world was vast, and my pain, while real, was just one small story in an infinite number of stories. That perspective was both humbling and comforting. My phone buzzed. The prepaid one. A text from my brother. Elena called me again. She sounds frantic. Said she's going to file a missing person report if you don't contact her. You need to let her know you're alive. I considered this. A missing person report would involve police, questions, complications. I didn't need that. I drove back to the motel and thought carefully about what to do. Finally, I sent Elena an email from my work account so she'd know it was me. Elena, I'm alive and safe. I needed time away to process some things. I will be home Thursday evening. Do not file any reports. Do not contact my family or friends. We will talk when I return. Marcus brief, neutral, giving nothing away. Her response came within minutes. Marcus, where have you been? I've been worried sick. What happened Thursday? Why did you leave like that? What is going on? Please call me. I didn't respond. Let her wonder. Let her stew in the uncertainty she'd created. For months, she'd been comfortable in her deception, secure in my obliviousness. Now she could experience a fraction of the disorientation she'd put me through. Petty? Maybe. But I was human, and humans sometimes need small victories to survive larger defeats. That evening, I made one final preparation. I composed a list of questions I would ask Elena when I confronted her. Not accusatory, not emotional, just clear, direct questions that would require clear, direct answers. How long has this been going on? How many times did you meet him? Did you use our money for hotels, dinners, gifts for him? When you told me you loved me, did you mean it? Were you planning to leave me, or were you going to keep this going indefinitely? Does he know what you told me, or did you lie to him too? Each question was a small knife, designed to cut through the rationalizations she'd surely prepared. She'd have excuses. She'd have explanations. She might even have tears. But these questions would force her to confront the specifics of her betrayal, the daily choices that had brought us here. I read through them, refining the language, making each one precise and unavoidable. Then I put the list away and went to bed. Thursday morning arrived with the weight of inevitability. I packed my few belongings, the clothes I'd bought, my laptop, the prepaid phone. I settled my bill with Carol's cousin at the front desk, who didn't ask questions about my week-long stay or my rumpled appearance. Safe travels, she said, thank you. The drive home took 4 hours. I drove slowly, not eager to arrive. The countryside gave way to suburbs, gave way to the city. Each mile marker was a countdown to confrontation. I arrived at our street at 6:47 p.m., exactly 1 week to the minute from when I'd pulled into this driveway with Thai Food and Trust. The house looked the same. Derek's truck wasn't on the street. Good. I sat in my car for a long moment, breathing steadily. My hands were calm on the steering wheel. My heart was beating normally. I was ready. I got out of the car and walked to the front door. My key still worked. She hadn't changed the locks. I stepped inside. The house was clean. Immaculate, actually. The kitchen sparkled. The living room was perfectly arranged. Even the throw pillows on the couch were positioned with deliberate precision. She'd been preparing for my return, making everything perfect, as if cleanliness could erase betrayal. I walked through the ground floor. The Thai food was gone from the counter. The lights were on. The power obviously had been restored. My phone sat exactly where I'd left it, though it was turned off now. I heard movement upstairs. Footsteps. Then Elena's voice. Marcus? Hesitant, hopeful, worried. I didn't answer immediately. Instead, I walked to the kitchen and poured myself a glass of water. Drank it slowly. The footsteps quickened. She appeared at the top of the stairs, then came down rapidly. Marcus, oh my God, you're back. She looked tired, makeup carefully applied, but not quite hiding the shadows under her eyes. Hair done, wearing the blue dress she knew I liked. Performance. All of it. I'm back, I said. She stopped a few feet away, reading my face. I kept my expression neutral. Where were you? I was so worried. I almost called the police. You just disappeared. I needed time to think. About what? Marcus, you left with no explanation. You locked me. She stopped herself. I locked you on the roof, I finished. Yes, I did. Her face shifted, surprised that I was addressing it so directly. How did you get down, by the way? I asked conversationally. Derek. Derek climbed to the third-floor window. It was open. But Marcus, why would you do that? You know why. Silence. Heavy, profound. I don't... Elena. My voice was calm but firm. Stop. Her mouth closed. I know, I said. I saw you. On the roof. I came home, couldn't find you. Heard laughter from above. I saw everything. Her face went white. I saw you kissing Derek, pressed against him, your hand on his chest, his fingers in your hair. I saw the familiarity between you, the ease that only comes from practice. Tears began to form in her eyes. I stood there and watched for 30 seconds. Maybe more. And then I decided what to do. I locked the door, I turned off the power, and I left. Marcus, please, let me explain. You'll have your chance to explain. I have questions, but first I need you to understand something. I looked at her, this woman I'd loved for 11 years, this stranger. I know everything, I said. The hotel 6 weeks ago, the lunches at Cafe Meridian every Tuesday, the wine bar downtown, the phone calls and texts daily, sometimes hourly. I've seen our financial records, tracked every transaction, documented every lie. Her tears were falling now. Marcus, I also know about Derek, about his pattern, about his ex-wife Janet and what he did to her, about his financial troubles and his history of pursuing married women. I know more than you think. She was shaking. I'm not saying this to hurt you, I continued. I'm saying this so you understand that when we talk, and we will talk, lies will not serve you. I have evidence, I have documentation. I have the truth. I set my glass down on the counter. We're going to divorce it, Elena. That's not a question. What is a question is how we proceed. We can do this civilly, fairly, with dignity, or we can do it another way. That choice is yours. She was crying openly now, makeup running. I've already consulted an attorney. I'll be meeting with her Friday. I suggest you do the same. Marcus, please. I love you. I made a mistake. A mistake? I shook my head. A mistake is forgetting an anniversary. A mistake is saying the wrong thing. What you did was make choices, hundreds of them, every day for months. You chose to deceive me. That's not a mistake, that's a pattern. It didn't mean anything. Then why did you do it? And do it again? And again? If it meant nothing, why risk everything for it? She had no answer. I need some time alone, I said. I'm going to take a shower, change my clothes. When I come back down, we can talk. But think carefully about what you want to say, because I'll know if you're lying. I walked past her toward the stairs. She reached for my arm. Marcus, I'm so sorry. I looked at her hand on my arm, then at her face, the tears, the desperation, the fear. I know, I said, but sorry doesn't undo what you've done. I gently removed her hand and went upstairs. In the bedroom, I closed the door and sat on the edge of our bed, the bed we'd shared for years, the bed she'd lain in while texting another man. I was shaking, not from anger, not from fear, from the enormity of what was happening. The life I'd known was ending. The future I'd imagined was erased. Everything was different now. But I was still standing. I took out my phone and read the letter I'd written to myself. You deserve better than to be someone's backup plan. You are enough. Yes, I showered, changed into fresh clothes, and prepared myself. The conversation ahead would be painful. The divorce would be painful. The entire process of untangling 11 years would be painful. But I was ready. I was finally completely ready. I went back downstairs. Elena was sitting on the couch waiting. Her tears had dried, though her face was still blotchy. She looked up when I entered, her expression a mixture of fear and hope. I sat in the chair across from her, not on the couch beside her. Distance was important. All right, I said, my voice steady. Let's talk. And we did. Elena sat across from me, her hands folded in her lap like a child waiting to be scolded. The woman I'd married had been confident, vibrant, always in control. This woman was none of those things. Fear had reduced her to something smaller, more fragile. Good. No, not good. That was the vindictive part of me, the wounded animal wanting to inflict pain in return for pain received. I pushed it down. I wasn't here for revenge. I was here for truth. Start from the beginning, I said. When did it start? She took a shaky breath. Marcus, I need you to understand. When did it start? 6 months ago. Longer than the financial evidence suggested. I'd underestimated. How? It was gradual. When Derek and Janet separated, I felt sorry for him. He seemed so lost. I'd see him in the driveway and we'd talk. Just neighbor stuff at first. But then, she trailed off. Then, he started confiding in me about his marriage, his struggles. He made me feel like I understood him, like I was the only one who really saw him. Classic manipulation. Derek had cast his net, and Elena had swum right into it. And you, what were you feeling? She looked down. Things between us had gotten routine. We didn't talk like we used to. You were always working, and I was stressed about my job. We were existing together, not living together. I absorbed this. So instead of talking to me about it, you talked to Derek. I didn't plan for it to become what it became. But it did. Yes. When did it become physical? Her cheeks flushed. About 4 months ago, after one of our lunches, at Cafe Meridian. She looked up, startled. You know about that? I told you, I know everything. The lunches, the hotel, the wine bars, every transaction is documented. She swallowed hard. After lunch one day, we went to his apartment. I told myself it was just to see his renovation work. I knew it was a lie even as I thought it. And after that, it happened again and again. I kept telling myself I'd stop, that it was a mistake, that I'd tell you. But I didn't. How often? Marcus, how often, Elena? 2 or 3 times a week. Sometimes more. 2 or 3 times a week for 4 months. That was 40 to 50 times, or 40 to 50 decisions to betray me. 40 to 50 opportunities to stop, and she hadn't taken a single one. The hotel charge from 6 weeks ago. What was that? A weekend. You were at that conference in Chicago. Derek said we should spend proper time together, not just stolen hours. I told you I was visiting my sister. You weren't in Portland. No. You were with him. Yes. The lies were stacking up like cordwood, each one another piece of kindling for the funeral pyre of our marriage. Did you love him? She was quiet for a long moment. I thought I did, or I thought I could. He made me feel desired, exciting. With us, everything had become so predictable. Predictability is what marriage becomes when you stop investing in it. You didn't try to fix us. You just found someone else. You're right. I know you're right. Did you plan to leave me for him? I don't know. I kept putting off the decision. I wanted both, I think. The stability of us and the excitement of him. You wanted to have your cake and eat it too. Yes, and that was selfish and wrong. Selfish barely covered it. She'd been living two lives, and I'd been unknowingly financing both of them. The money you spent on him, the dinners, the hotels, the lunches, that was our money, Elena. Money I earned that we saved together. I know. Do you? Because those charges add up to thousands of dollars. Thousands of dollars of our joint assets spent on your affair. She started crying again. I'll pay it back. Every cent. This isn't about the money, although it was partially. It's about the respect, or the complete lack of it. You used our money to fund your betrayal. You lay next to me at night after being with him. You kissed me goodbye, knowing you'd see him at lunch. I'm so sorry. Sorry is just a word. It doesn't undo anything. She wiped her eyes. What can I do? How can I make this right? I looked at her, really looked. Beyond the tears, beyond the fear, beyond the woman I thought I knew. Who was she really? Someone who could maintain a double life for months without cracking. Someone who could look me in the eye every day and choose to deceive me. Someone who'd prioritized her excitement over my trust. You can't make this right, I said. That's what you need to understand. This isn't a problem that can be fixed. You've broken something fundamental. Marriage counseling. We could try. No. Marcus, please, I know I hurt you, but we have 11 years together. Doesn't that count for something? It counts for why I'm not screaming at you right now. It counts for why I'm sitting here having this conversation instead of throwing your things on the lawn. But it doesn't count enough to erase what you've done. I'll end it with Derek. It's already over. I haven't seen him since that night. Since you were trapped on the roof together? Yes, when you left, when the power went out, when we realized what had happened. It was like a spell broke. I saw it all clearly for the first time. What I'd done, what I'd risked. You saw it clearly because you got caught, not because you had a moral awakening. She couldn't argue with that. I have more questions, I said. Okay. Did he know about our finances? Our savings? She hesitated. A tell. Elena, he knew we were comfortable. He asked about it sometimes, about our future plans. Did you tell him about the inheritance from my grandfather? About our investment accounts? Maybe, in passing. In passing. She'd given him a financial inventory of our assets while they were planning whatever they were planning. What were you going to do? Eventually? Were you going to ask for a divorce? Were you going to keep this going until I caught you? I don't know. I kept avoiding thinking about it. That's convenient. Avoid the consequences while enjoying the benefits. You're right, I was a coward. Yes, you were. We sat in silence for a moment. The grandfather clock in the hallway, a wedding gift from her parents, ticked steadily, marking time that had run out on us. What happens now, she asked. Now we separate, legally and practically. I'll be consulting with an attorney tomorrow. You should do the same. We'll divide assets according to the law. I won't try to destroy you, but I won't let you benefit from this either. The house? We'll sell it, split the proceeds. Our savings? Equal division minus what you spent on the affair. That comes out of your half. She nodded, accepting. I'll need you to move out, I said, or I will. One of us needs to leave. Where will I go? That's not my concern anymore. Harsh, but necessary. I couldn't stay in this house with her, sleeping down the hall, pretending we were working towards something. The marriage was over. The cohabitation needed to end too. Can I have some time to find a place? Two weeks, that's fair. We'll live separately in the house until then. I'll take the guest room. Okay. One more thing. What? Derek, you said you haven't seen him since that night. Is that true? Yes, I swear. I believe you, but here's what's going to happen. He's going to reach out. He's going to try to reconnect, maybe play the victim, say I overreacted, suggest you two resume your relationship now that it's out in the open. I won't. Let me finish. When that happens, and it will happen, you need to understand something about him. This isn't his first time doing this. His pattern is pursuing married women. His ex-wife told me about it. He's a predator, Elena. You were prey. I'm not saying that to excuse what you did. You made choices, but he targeted you deliberately. Her face showed shock. What? His ex-wife, Janet. He did the same thing to her marriage. A business partner's girlfriend. Married women are his thing. He likes the conquest. That can't be true. I spoke to Janet directly. She confirmed it. She also mentioned he has financial troubles, debts he hid from her. He knew about our savings because you told him, and he was positioning himself. You think he was after our money? I think he was after whatever he could get, your attention, your body, and eventually, possibly, your assets. Our assets. She looked like she might be sick. I'm telling you this so you know what you're dealing with. If he contacts you, and he will, remember who he is, not the charming neighbor, the predator. I feel so stupid. You made stupid choices. You're not a stupid person. There's a difference. She looked at me then with something like gratitude. Even now, even after everything, I wasn't trying to destroy her completely. Maybe I was too kind. Maybe I was too weak. But I'd meant what I'd thought in that motel room. I wanted to be fair, not vindictive. Marcus, I know this doesn't mean much, but I am truly sorry. For all of it. For hurting you, for betraying your trust, for being too cowardly to face my own unhappiness head on. You deserve better. Yes, I did. If I could go back, but you can't. None of us can. We can only go forward. She nodded. I stood up. I'm exhausted. I'm going to the guest room. Tomorrow I have my attorney meeting. You should contact 1 and 2. We'll communicate through them moving forward when possible. Okay. Good night, Elena. Good night, Marcus. I walked upstairs, feeling her eyes on my back. In the guest room, I closed the door and sat on the unfamiliar bed. The sheets smelled like the lavender sachets Elena put in all the linen closets. I'd done it. I'd confronted her, asked my questions, maintained my composure. I hadn't yelled. I hadn't cried. I hadn't collapsed into forgiveness or exploded into rage. I'd been calm, direct, and firm. But now, alone in the quiet, the weight of it all pressed down. 11 years ending in this spare room with its carefully neutral decor. All those years of building something together, unraveled in months by choices that couldn't be unchosen. I pulled out my phone and reread my letter to myself. You are enough. This wasn't about your inadequacy. I had to believe that. Had to hold on to it like a lifeline in dark water. I set the phone down and lay back, staring at the ceiling. Different ceiling than the motel, but the same feeling of being suspended between the life I'd had and the life I'd have. Tomorrow I'd meet with the attorney, file papers, make it official. Tomorrow the real work of separation would begin. But tonight I'd survived. That was enough. The next morning I was up early. Elena was already gone, her car missing from the garage. Either she'd gone to work or she was avoiding me. Probably both. I made coffee, strong and black, and sat at the kitchen table. Strange to be back in this space that had been mine for years but now felt foreign. Everything looked the same, but everything was different. The fruit bowl on the counter, the calendar on the wall with its careful notations of appointments and reminders. The photograph of us from our honeymoon stuck to the refrigerator with a magnet from that trip. All artifacts from a life that no longer existed. I left early for my meeting with Sandra Walsh. Her office was in the business district, 14th floor of a glass tower. Professional, competent, exactly what I needed. She welcomed me into a conference room with windows overlooking the city. Marcus, thank you for being prompt. Let's get started. For the next 2 hours, we went through everything. I presented my documentation, the spreadsheets, the phone logs, the transaction records. Sandra reviewed each piece with the sharp eye of someone who'd seen 1,000 marriages dissolve. This is exceptional work, she said. Most clients come to me with emotions and suspicions. You have come with evidence and analysis. Occupational hazard. I find financial irregularities for a living. It shows. Now, let's talk strategy. We discussed the legal process, filing for divorce, division of assets, the timeline involved. Sandra explained that while adultery didn't automatically penalize Elena in our no-fault state, the dissipation of marital assets, the money spent on the affair, could be factored into the settlement. The hotel, the dinners, the gifts, if there were any, all of that was marital money used for her affair. You're entitled to compensation for that. What about the house? You'll need to decide, sell it and split proceeds, or one of you buys out the other's share. Given the circumstances, selling is cleaner. That's what I want. Good. And your retirement accounts, investments, savings? Equal split, minus the dissipation. Fair. She'll have a hard time arguing against that given the evidence. We discussed timelines. Filing would take a few days, service of papers another week, then the waiting period mandated by the state. All told, the divorce could be finalized in 6 to 12 months, depending on how contested things became. My advice, Sandra said, try to keep this collaborative. Contentious divorces drain everyone, emotionally and financially. If she's willing to accept fair terms, encourage it. I don't want to destroy her. I just want out. That's healthy. Anger is natural, but revenge is expensive. Before I left, Sandra gave me homework. Write down everything you want from this divorce. Property, assets, terms. Be specific. We'll use it to draft the settlement proposal. I thanked her and headed home. The house was still empty when I arrived. I made lunch, a sandwich I barely tasted, and sat down to do Sandra's homework. What did I want? I wanted my fair share of our assets. Not more, not less. Just what was equitable given the circumstances. I wanted my freedom to rebuild, to move forward, to find happiness that wasn't tainted by betrayal. I wanted my dignity intact. To walk away from this knowing I'd handled it with integrity. I wanted the truth acknowledged, not just privately between us, but in whatever legal documents we sign. She cheated. That was a fact that should be recorded. And yes, part of me wanted her to understand the depth of the hurt she'd caused, not through cruelty, but through consequences, natural, logical consequences that followed from her choices. I wrote it all down, specific, clear, unemotional. As I finished, I heard the front door open. Elena was home. I stayed at the kitchen table as she entered. She looked tired, her work clothes rumpled. "Hi," she said. "Hi. How was your meeting?" "Informative. I filed the paperwork today." Her face fell, though she must have known it was coming. "Already? No reason to wait. We both know where this is heading." She set her bag down on the counter. "I contacted an attorney too, someone my coworker recommended." "Good." "She said we should try mediation before things get adversarial." "I agree. I don't want this to be a battle." "Neither do I." We stood in our kitchen, two people who'd once been partners, now negotiating the terms of dissolution. "I found an apartment," Elena said. "I can move in next week." "That's fast." "It's temporary, just something to get me out of here, give you space." "I appreciate that." "Marcus, I know I have no right to ask, but is there any chance? Any possibility we could—" "No, the word was firm, final. I didn't think so, but I had to ask." "I understand, but the answer is no. I've had a week to think about this, Elena. A week of silence and distance and clarity. What you did wasn't a momentary lapse. It was a sustained betrayal. Months of lies. I can't forget that. I can't forgive it either, at least not anytime soon. And without those things, there's nothing to rebuild on." She nodded, tears forming. "I keep hoping I'll wake up and this will all be a nightmare." "It is a nightmare, one you created." "I know. I don't say that to hurt you. I say it because it's true. You need to own what you did, fully. Not with excuses about our marriage being routine or me working too much. You made choices. Own them. You're right. I know I'm right. I've been right about everything except trusting you." Harsh words, but true ones. She wiped her eyes. I'm going to pack some things. Take them to my new place. Okay. She went upstairs. I heard her moving around, opening closets and drawers. The sounds of a life being divided. I stayed at the kitchen table, staring at my list of what I wanted from the divorce. Clean, organized, rational. My phone buzzed. The prepaid one. A text from Janet. Hi, Marcus. Just checking in. How are you holding up? I appreciated her concern. She understood what I was going through better than anyone. Managing, confronted her, filing for divorce, trying to stay rational. That's good, the rational part. It's hard to maintain, but it's important, I know. Some moments are harder than others. They will be for a while. Be patient with yourself. Thank you, Janet. Anytime. And Marcus, be careful with Derek. I meant what I said about him. He doesn't take rejection well. Her warning stayed with me as Elena came downstairs with a suitcase and 2 boxes. I'll be back tomorrow for more, she said. Okay. Marcus, thank you for not making this uglier than it has to be. I'm not doing it for you. I'm doing it for me. I don't want to become someone bitter and vindictive. That would mean you took more from me than just the marriage. She considered this. You're a better person than I deserve. Maybe, or maybe I'm just tired. She left with her boxes, the door closing behind her with a quiet click. I sat in the silence of the house, my house now, and felt a strange mixture of sadness and relief that comes when something difficult finally ends. The divorce papers were filed. Elena was moving out. The truth was known, and I was still standing. Tired, yes. Wounded, certainly, but standing. That counted for something. Elena moved out on Tuesday. I watched from the window as she loaded the last of her boxes into her car. Each trip, another piece of our shared life being carried away. She'd been efficient about it, only taking what was clearly hers, clothes, personal items, a few pieces of furniture we'd agreed she could have. The rest would be sorted when we sold the house. When she left for the final time, she didn't come back inside to say goodbye. Just got in her car, sat for a moment looking at the house, then drove away. I felt both emptier and lighter. The house was quiet in a new way, not the quiet of Elena being upstairs or out on errands. The quiet of absence, of finality. I walked through the rooms, noticing the gaps where her things had been. The bookshelf had empty spaces now. The bathroom counter was half vacant. Her closet in our bedroom, my bedroom now, stood open and bare. I should have felt sad. Part of me did, but mostly I felt relief. The pretense was over. The waiting was done, and now I could begin the actual work of rebuilding. I threw myself into it. I cleaned the house from top to bottom, erasing the traces of a life that no longer existed. I rearranged furniture to fill the gaps. I changed the sheets, the towels, the shower curtain. Small things, but they mattered. This was my space now, and I needed it to feel like mine. The divorce proceedings moved forward. Sandra kept me updated. Elena's attorney had responded, agreeing to mediation. Good sign. We'd meet in 2 weeks to discuss terms. My brother called, checking in. You doing okay? Michael asked. Better than expected. It helps that I had time to process before confronting her. That week you disappeared was smart in retrospect. Gave you distance. It did, though it felt a bit crazy at the time. Sometimes crazy is just wisdom we don't recognize yet. Michael, the philosopher. What about Derek? He asked. The neighbor? Haven't seen him. He's been keeping his distance. Good. Guys like that are trouble. So I've learned. After we hung up, I thought about Derek. He'd been conspicuously absent since I'd returned. No truck in the street, no friendly stops by, no pretense of neighborly concern. He knew the game was up, but Janet's warning echoed in my mind. He doesn't take rejection well. I made a note to install security cameras, just in case. Wednesday evening, I was working in the home office, actual work, catching up on cases I'd neglected during my week away, when the doorbell rang. I tensed immediately. Derek, Elena, having second thoughts. I checked the camera I'd installed by the front door. It showed a delivery person with a package. I exhaled and opened the door. Marcus Chen? That's me. Sign here. I did, and he handed me a box, small, nondescript. Inside, I found a bottle of wine and a card. Marcus, I heard about your situation from Elena. I'm so sorry for my role in what happened. I hope we can talk man to man. I think you deserve to hear my side. Let me know when you're ready. Derek. I stared at the card, a laugh escaping me. His side. As if there was a side that justified sleeping with my wife. As if man to man would somehow explain away the betrayal. The audacity was almost impressive. I threw the wine in the trash, card with it. Then I took photos of both before they went into the bin. Documentation. Always documentation. I texted Janet immediately. Derek sent me wine and a card, wants to talk man to man. Says I deserve to hear his side. Her response was quick. Classic. He did the same thing to my ex's business partner. Tried to frame himself as the victim, said the affair was inevitable, and he was just being honest about feelings. It's part of his script. Should I respond? Absolutely not. Any engagement gives him what he wants, access. He'll try to manipulate you, make you doubt yourself, maybe even turn this around to make you the bad guy. I hadn't planned to respond. Good. Stay the course. Block him if he tries to contact you directly. Sound advice, but Derek wasn't done. Thursday morning as I left for work, I saw him, standing by his truck, parked on the street. He raised a hand in a greeting. I ignored him, got in my car, and drove away. In my rearview mirror, I saw him watching. Friday, he appeared again. Same spot, same wave. I ignored him again. Saturday, I was in the backyard tending to the Japanese maple. I decided to keep maintaining it, to claim it as mine rather than let it die as a symbol of our failed marriage. When I heard someone clear their throat. Derek stood at the fence line, arms crossed over his chest, that charming smile in place. Marcus, hey, can we talk? I continued pruning without looking up. No, then. Come on, man. I know you're angry. I'm not angry. I'm done. With her, with you, with this entire situation. Just 5 minutes. Let me explain. I set down the pruning shears and faced him. He looked the same, attractive, confident, the kind of guy people instinctively trust. Explain what exactly? How you targeted my wife while pretending to be my friend? How you used your separation to play the victim and lure her into an affair? How you borrowed my tools while sleeping with her? What explanation could possibly justify any of that? His smile faltered slightly. It's not that simple. It's exactly that simple. You're a predator, Derek. Janet told me about your pattern. The business partner's girlfriend, now my wife. Married women are your specialty. His face hardened. Janet's bitter. She blames me for everything that went wrong in our marriage. Maybe because you cheated on her. Our marriage was already dead, just like yours, apparently. The dig was intended to wound. I didn't let it. My marriage had problems. Every long-term relationship does. But Elena and I could have worked on them together. Instead, you inserted yourself, manipulated her vulnerability, and destroyed what we had. I didn't make her do anything. She wanted me. The arrogance, the sheer unrepentant arrogance. You're right, she made her choices, and she's facing consequences for them. But you made choices too. You pursued a married woman deliberately. You befriended me while betraying me. You're not a victim here, Derek. You're a perpetrator. You locked us on a roof, man, in the dark. We were up there for hours. And yet here you stand, unharmed. Consider it a consequence, a mild one compared to what you've done. He stepped closer to the fence. This doesn't have to be adversarial. We're still neighbors. We'll see each other. I'm selling the house. That surprised him. What? The house, I'm selling it. Part of the divorce settlement and I'll be moving. His face showed something, calculation maybe, disappointment. I couldn't read him as well as I thought. That seems extreme. Does it? This house holds memories of a marriage built on lies. I don't want those memories. I want a fresh start. Where will you go? That's none of your business. He tried to smile again, softer this time. Marcus, I genuinely am sorry. Things got out of hand. Elena and we got caught up. Save it. I've heard Elena's apologies. I don't need yours. But what I deserve is to be left alone. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to stay away from me. No more deliveries, no more appearances, no more attempts at conversation. If you contact me again, I'll file a restraining order. Janet got one against you once. I can too. His expression shifted, the charm evaporated, and I saw underneath it the anger, the wounded ego, the man who didn't like being denied. You're being unreasonable. No, I'm being clear. Goodbye, Derek. I picked up my pruning shears and returned to the maple tree. After a long moment, I heard him walk away. My hands were shaking slightly. Confrontation wasn't natural for me. I preferred the quiet work of spreadsheets and evidence, the safety of numbers that couldn't talk back. But I'd done it. I'd stood my ground. Back inside, I documented the interaction. Time, date, what was said, more evidence, more protection. Janet was right. Derek didn't take rejection well. The mask had slipped briefly, showing the anger underneath. I'd need to stay vigilant. I called a locksmith that afternoon and had all the locks changed. Then I upgraded the security system, adding cameras that covered the full perimeter. Paranoid? Maybe, but better safe than sorry. The mediation was scheduled for the following Wednesday. Sandra prepped me beforehand. Remember, the goal is fair resolution, not punishment. You want this to be clean and final. I know. Elena's attorney will push back on the dissipation claim. They'll try to minimize the amount spent on the affair. I have documentation, which is your strength, but be prepared for them to argue that some expenses were legitimate. Lunches with coworkers, for example. I can prove she wasn't with coworkers. Good. Keep your composure in there. No matter what's said, stay calm and factual. You're good at that. I arrived at the mediation office, a neutral space designed for exactly this purpose. Beige walls, comfortable chairs, a round table meant to encourage collaboration. Elena was already there with her attorney. She looked thinner, tired. The past weeks had taken their toll. We sat across from each other. The mediator, a woman named Dr. Patricia Chen, no relation, introduced herself. My goal today is to help you both reach an agreement that's fair and allows you to move forward. We'll discuss property division, financial assets, and any other terms. I'll guide the conversation, but ultimately, the decisions are yours. She started with the house. We both agreed to sell, split proceeds 50-50. That was easy. Financial assets were more complicated. Marcus has submitted documentation, Sandra said, showing significant expenditure on the extramarital relationship. Hotel stays, dinners, transportation, all funded from joint accounts. We believe Elena's share should be reduced by this amount. Elena's attorney countered, while we acknowledge some funds were spent, the amounts claimed are excessive. Many of these transactions were legitimate expenses, work lunches, personal shopping. I spoke up. Cafe Meridian is nowhere near Elena's workplace. It's 6 blocks from Derek's apartment. She went there every Tuesday for 2 months. Those weren't work lunches. Elena flinched. Her attorney continued. Even so, the total amount claimed is accurate, Sandra interjected. Marcus has timestamps, locations, credit card statements. The documentation is comprehensive. Dr. Chen looked at Elena. Is this accurate? Were these expenses related to the affair? Elena glanced at her attorney, who gave a slight nod. Yes, Elena said quietly. Most of them were. Progress. We negotiated back and forth. Eventually, we settled on a figure that would be deducted from Elena's share. Not the full amount I'd claimed, but a substantial portion. Fair enough. Retirement accounts were split equally, as required by law. The savings the same. Any personal property in dispute? Dr. Chen asked. The wedding gifts, Elena said. Some of them were from my family. She can have them, I said. I don't want reminders. The Japanese maple tree, Elena asked. That stays with the house. Whoever buys it gets the tree. She nodded, a flicker of sadness crossing her face. We worked through the remaining details. By the end of 3 hours, we had a preliminary agreement. Both attorneys would draft the formal documents. As we stood to leave, Elena approached me. Marcus, thank you for being reasonable. I told you I don't want this to be a war. I know, and I appreciate it. She paused. I hope you find happiness. I hope the same for you. Maybe not immediately, but eventually. That's more than I deserve. Maybe, but I'm not keeping track of what you deserve anymore. I'm just trying to move forward. She nodded and we parted. Outside, Sandra shook my hand. That went well. Better than many I've seen. It helps when both parties want it over. True, I'll have the papers ready for your signature by end of week. Thank you, Sandra. I drove home feeling lighter than I had in weeks. The divorce wasn't final, but the hardest part, facing her, negotiating, maintaining composure, was done. At home, I poured myself a glass of water and sat on the couch. The house was quiet, empty, but not lonely. It was the quiet of peace, of space to breathe. My phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. You think you're so smart, so moral, but you're just a coward who runs from conflict. You don't deserve her, Derek. I screenshotted the message immediately. More documentation. Then I blocked the number. But his words lingered. Coward. Was that what I was? For choosing silence over confrontation? For planning instead of raging? No, I'd confronted Elena. I'd faced Derek at the fence. I'd fought for fair terms in mediation. None of that was cowardly. What I'd done was refuse to play by his rules. The screaming, the drama, the emotional chaos, that's what men like Derek thrived on. It fed their narratives, made them feel important, gave them power. My silence, my calm, my evidence-based approach, these were weapons he didn't know how to fight. Let him call me a coward. I knew better, and soon I'd be gone from this neighborhood, this house, this chapter of my life, and Derek would still be here, alone with his debts and his patterns and his anger. That was consequence enough. 2 weeks after mediation, I got a call from Janet. Marcus, I thought you should know. Derek's in trouble. I set down the coffee I'd been drinking. What kind of trouble? Legal trouble. Remember how I mentioned his debts? Apparently, he defaulted on several loans. His creditors are coming after him. And there's more. He's being investigated for fraud. Fraud? He overbilled clients on renovation projects. Took deposits for work he never completed. Multiple complaints filed. It's catching up to him. I processed this. Derek's carefully constructed image was crumbling. How do you know all this? His creditors contacted me, trying to find him. He's apparently been dodging their calls, and the fraud investigation, it's public record. I looked it up after hearing rumors. Did you tell them anything? Just that we're divorced, and I have no knowledge of his current funds. True enough. I thanked Janet for the information. After we hung up, I sat thinking about karma, about consequences, about the slow unraveling of deceptions. Derek had built his life on appearances. The charming neighbor, the successful contractor, the man women trusted. But underneath was rot, bad debts, shady practices, predatory patterns. Eventually, the foundation gives way. I felt satisfaction, I'll admit. Not joy at his suffering, but something like vindication. He wasn't going to escape consequences. They were just coming from a different direction. The house sold faster than expected. Real estate market was hot, and our property was desirable. We got above asking price, which softened the financial blow for both Elena and me. I found a new place, a condo downtown, smaller but sufficient. Fresh start, fresh walls, no memories haunting the corners. Moving day arrived on a Saturday in late spring. I'd hired professionals, didn't want to ask friends to help carry the remnants of my failed marriage. They worked efficiently, loading boxes and furniture into the truck. As they finished up, I walked through the empty house one last time. The echoes were different now, not sad, just final. The kitchen where I'd set down Thai food a lifetime ago. The stairs I'd climbed, hearing laughter from above. The rooftop door, still locked from my side. I unlocked it now and climbed up. The rooftop terrace was exactly as I'd left it. The brick from Elena's herb garden project still propped against the railing. The view of the city skyline unchanged. I stood where they'd stood, tried to see what they'd seen. Just a view, just a place, just a moment that had shattered everything. I stayed for maybe 5 minutes, letting the wind blow past me, letting the city hum below. Then I descended, closed the door, and left it unlocked. The next person could decide what to do with this space. I handed the keys to the real estate agent outside. "All set?" she asked. "All set." I didn't look back as I drove away. The divorce was finalized 3 months later, a piece of paper that erased 11 years of marriage. Elena and I had both signed, both witnesses had witnessed, and just like that, we were no longer married. I'd expected to feel something profound: grief, relief, anger, sadness. Instead, I felt mostly neutral. It was done, that was that. Life continued. I threw myself into work, taking on complex cases that occupied my mind. I exercised more, joined a gym, found myself growing stronger physically as I healed emotionally. My brother came to visit the new condo. "Nice place," Michael said, looking around. "Smaller." "Enough for me." "How are you doing? Really?" I considered the question. "Better. Not healed, but healing. Some days are harder than others." "That's normal." "I know. I'm patient with the process." "What about dating? Getting back out there?" I laughed. "Not yet. I'm not ready for that." "Maybe not for a while." "That's probably wise. Give yourself time." "I am." We had dinner, talked about things other than my divorce, his kids, his job, our aging mother. Normal family stuff. After he left, I sat on my new couch in my new living room and felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Contentment. Not happiness exactly, but a settled sense of being okay. Of surviving something hard and coming out the other side intact. 6 months after the divorce was finalized, I got an email from Elena. "Marcus, I hope this finds you well. I know we haven't spoken since everything was finalized, and I respect your space. But I wanted to share something with you. I've been in therapy, intensive therapy actually, working through why I did what I did, the patterns that led me there, the wounds I was trying to fill with the wrong things. It's been hard but necessary work. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't think I deserve it. But I wanted you to know that I'm trying to become someone better. Someone who doesn't hurt people the way I hurt you. I also wanted to tell you that Derek contacted me a few months ago. Tried to reconnect. I blocked him immediately. You were right about him, about everything. I heard he's facing legal troubles. Fraud charges, debt collectors. His world is falling apart. Part of me feels guilty, like I contributed to his downfall by being part of his pattern. But mostly I feel relief that I'm free of him. I hope you found peace. You deserve it, Elena. I read the email twice. Her words seemed genuine. Not looking for reconciliation or forgiveness, just reporting, sharing her process. I wrote back, brief but sincere. "Elena, thank you for sharing. I'm glad you're doing the work. Real change is possible, but only if you're honest with yourself first. I'm doing well. New place, new routines, slowly rebuilding." The anger has faded into something more like sad acceptance. We had something good once before it became something broken. Take care of yourself, Marcus. I hit send and closed the laptop. Some doors close forever. Ours had. But that didn't mean we had to be enemies, or that I had to wish her ill. She'd hurt me profoundly, but she was also human. Flawed, broken in her own ways, capable of both terrible choices and growth. I couldn't forgive her yet, maybe never. But I could let go of the anger. That was progress. A year after I'd caught them on the rooftop, I was walking downtown when I saw Derek. He didn't see me at first. He looked diminished, thinner, less polished. His clothes, once carefully casual, were wrinkled. His truck, previously immaculate, sat parked with visible dents. He was coming out of what looked like a lawyer's office. Civil litigation, the sign said. His creditors had caught up. I watched him walk to his truck, shoulders hunched, face tight. He looked up and saw me. We made eye contact across the street. A long moment passed. He looked away first, got in his truck, and drove off. I continued my walk, feeling nothing particular. No satisfaction, no anger, no pity, just observation. He'd done this to himself. Every choice he'd made, the affairs, the fraud, the debts, had led him here. The universe didn't need me to deliver justice. His own actions were consequences enough. That night, I sat on my balcony with a glass of wine, not the wine he'd sent, That was long gone, watching the city lights. I thought about that Thursday a year ago. The Thai food, the rooftop, the moment everything changed. I thought about the man I'd been, trusting, oblivious, comfortable in a marriage that was already dying. I thought about the man I'd become, stronger, more cautious, but also more self-aware. I'd learned to trust my instincts, to value evidence over assumption, to choose dignity over drama. The betrayal had broken something in me, but in the breaking, something else had formed, like a bone that heals stronger at the fracture point. I raised my glass to the city lights. To truth, I said to no one, to consequences, to moving forward. I drank. The wine was good, and the night was peaceful. And I was okay, not yet healed completely, but okay. And that was enough. 18 months after the rooftop. That's how I measure time now. Not by seasons or holidays, but by distance from the moment everything fractured. I was sitting in my office downtown, the new one, corner unit with windows that let in actual sunlight, when my assistant knocked. "Mr. Chen, your 2 o'clock is here." "Send them in." A woman entered, mid-40s, professional dress, the kind of nervous energy that said she suspected her world was about to collapse. "Mrs. Patterson, I'm Marcus Chen. Please sit down." She sat, clutching her purse like a lifeline. "Thank you for seeing me. I was referred by a colleague. She said you're the best at finding things." Finding things? Financial irregularities, hidden assets, the truth. There it was, that word, truth. "Tell me what you're dealing with." She took a breath. "My husband. We've been married 22 years. Last month I discovered he has a second phone. Secret accounts. I think he's hiding money. Maybe having an affair. Maybe both." I listened as she laid out her suspicions. The late nights, the unexplained expenses, the emotional distance, the familiar architecture of deception. "I need to know," she said. "Even if it destroys everything, I need to know." I understood that need. The not knowing is its own torture. "Mrs. Patterson, I can help you find the truth, but I need you to understand something first." "What?" "Once you know, you can't unknow. The truth doesn't always set you free. Sometimes it just changes the shape of your cage. Are you prepared for that?" She was quiet for a long moment. Then, with a firmness I recognized, "Yes." "Then let's begin." I'd pivoted my practice 6 months prior. Still forensic accounting, but with a specialization. Matrimonial fraud, spouses hiding assets, partners concealing affairs. The financial archaeology of broken trust. My own experience had given me insight that other accountants lacked. I knew how deceptions were built, how they were maintained, and how they eventually crumbled. I knew the patterns. More importantly, I knew the human cost. My practice had grown quickly. Word spread quietly, the way these things do, that Marcus Chen could find what people tried to hide, that he worked with precision and discretion, that he delivered truth without drama. I'd become, in a way, a professional truth finder for the betrayed. Ironic? Perhaps, but also deeply satisfying. Mrs. Patterson's case was complex but not unusual. Her husband had created a shell company, funneled money through it, hidden it in offshore accounts. Classic tactics. It took me 3 weeks to unravel it all. When I presented her with the documentation, the secret accounts, the hidden assets, the proof of his affair, there was one, of course, she sat in my office and cried. "I knew," she said, "I knew something was wrong, but I didn't want to believe it." No one does. What do I do now? Now you take this to your attorney. Now you protect yourself. Now you decide what kind of future you want. It hurts so much, oh. It will for a while, but knowing is better than not knowing. Uncertainty is its own kind of prison. She looked at me then, really looked. "You speak like someone who knows." "I do." "What happened to you?" I didn't usually share my personal story with clients. Professionalism required distance. But something in her eyes, the raw vulnerability, the desperate need to know she wasn't alone, made me answer. "My wife had an affair with our neighbor. I discovered it by accident. I divorced her." "How long ago?" 18 months. Does it get better? I considered the question carefully. It gets different. The sharp edges round off. The constant ache becomes intermittent. You rebuild, slowly, and eventually you realize you're stronger than you thought. Are you happy? I'm at peace. That took time, but yes, I think I'm approaching happiness again. She nodded, wiping her eyes. Thank you. Not just for the work, but for the honesty. You're welcome. After she left, I sat at my desk, thinking about the question. Was I happy? The answer was complicated. I was content. I had work I found meaningful, helping people navigate the worst moments of their lives with clarity and evidence. I had my health, my family relationships, my quiet routines. But happiness? The full, uncomplicated joy of a life well lived? That was still a work in progress. My therapist, yes, I'd finally started seeing one 8 months after the divorce, called it post-traumatic growth. You've taken a devastating experience and transformed it, Dr. Kim said during our weekly session. Your career pivot, your emotional processing, even your relationships have deepened because of what you went through. Is that healthy, building a career on betrayal? You're not building it on betrayal, you're building it on truth. There's a difference. Sometimes it feels like I'm profiting from other people's pain. Are you causing the pain? No. Are you helping them navigate it? I try to. Then you're not profiting from pain. You're providing expertise during crisis. That's valuable and ethical. I appreciated Dr. Kim's perspective. She helped me see the difference between dwelling in my wound and using it as a wisdom. How are you doing with the anger? She asked. It's mostly gone. Sometimes something triggers it, a couple holding hands, a love song on the radio, and I feel that old bitterness. But it passes. That's progress, was it? Sometimes I wonder if I'm just numb. Numb is different from processed. Numb is absence of feeling. Processed is feeling that's been integrated. Which one describes you? I thought about it. Processed, I think. I feel things. They're just manageable. That's growth, Marcus. Real growth. The Patterson case wrapped up successfully. She filed for divorce with ammunition that ensured a fair settlement. Her husband, faced with irrefutable evidence of his deception, didn't contest. She sent me a thank you card a month later. Mr. Chen, the divorce was finalized yesterday. Thanks to your work, I received an equitable settlement. More importantly, I received the truth. You were right. Knowing is better than wondering. I'm scared about the future, but I'm also hopeful. That wouldn't be possible without the clarity you provided. With gratitude, Patricia Patterson. I put the card on my bookshelf next to the others I'd received. A small collection of thanks from people I'd helped navigate their own versions of what I'd been through. Each one was a reminder that pain could have purpose, that betrayal, while devastating, could be survived. That truth, even when it hurt, was ultimately freeing. 2 years post-Rooftop, I was at a professional conference, forensic accountants gathering to discuss best practices and emerging fraud patterns, when I ran into someone unexpected. Marcus Chen? I turned. A woman, professional attire, name tag that read Janet Morrison, CPA. Janet, Derek's ex-wife, my ally during the darkest time. Janet, I didn't know you were in this field. Switched careers after the divorce. Figured if I could untangle Derek's financial mess, I could do it professionally. We laughed, the kind of laugh that comes from shared experience. Coffee? Hacemos? She offered a pause. Absolutely. We found a quiet corner of the hotel lobby, catching up over lattes. How are you doing? She asked. Really? Good. Really good, actually. The practice is thriving. I've found a niche. Same story here. Turns out being married to a financial disaster gives you excellent training. We compared notes on our practices, our approaches, our clientele. Similar specializations born from similar pain. What about Derek? I asked. Heard anything? Last I heard, he had declared bankruptcy, lost his contractor's license due to the fraud charges. Moved away, not sure where. Good riddance. And Elena? I hadn't heard from her in over a year. Our brief email exchange had been our last communication. Not sure, we weren't close, obviously. Of course, Janet studied me. You look different, lighter. I feel lighter. The weight of carrying that anger, that hurt, it was exhausting. Letting it go has been liberating. I know exactly what you mean. It took me 3 years after Derek to feel like myself again. Sounds like you're ahead of schedule. Having a model helped. Your advice during that time about not letting it change me into someone I didn't want to be, I think about that a lot. I'm glad it helped. We survivors need to stick together. Survivors. That's what we were. Not victims. That implied helplessness. Survivors acknowledge the trauma, but also the triumph of continuing. We exchanged updated contact information, promising to stay in touch. Professional networking with a personal foundation. After the conference, I flew home feeling connected in a way I hadn't in a long time. Janet understood my journey because she'd walked a parallel path. There was comfort in that shared understanding. That night, back in my condo, I opened the box I kept in my closet. The box of evidence from my marriage investigation. Spreadsheets, phone logs, transaction records. The letter I'd written to myself in that motel room. I hadn't looked at it in months. I pulled out the letter. Read it again. You deserve better than to be someone's backup plan. You are enough. This wasn't about your inadequacy. This was about her choices. Past tense Marcus, writing to future me from the depths of betrayal. He was right. It wasn't about my inadequacy. Elena's affair was about her choices, her patterns, her unresolved issues. I'd been collateral damage in her self-destruction, but I'd survived. More than survived. I'd grown. I put the letter back in the box and closed the lid. Maybe it was time to let this go too. The evidence, the documentation, the paper trail of my pain. It had served its purpose, protected me, validated me, armed me with truth when I needed it most. But I didn't need it anymore. I carried the box to my storage unit in the basement of the building, put it on a shelf in the back. Not destroyed, I wasn't ready for that, but stored, archived. The past cataloged and put away. I'd reference it if needed, but I wouldn't carry it with me daily. That was progress. 2.5 years post-rooftop. A Saturday morning and I was at the farmer's market. One of my new routine, fresh vegetables, artisan bread, the simple pleasure of quality ingredients. I'd learned to cook, properly cook, since the divorce. Feeding myself well felt like self-respect in action. I was examining tomatoes when I saw them. A couple, mid-30s, laughing at something. The woman leaned into the man, his arm around her waist. Natural, easy intimacy. Once this sight would have triggered me. Reminded me of what I'd lost, what had been stolen. Now I watched them with something closer to wistfulness. Not bitter, not angry, just a gentle ache for connection I'd once had and might someday have again. I wasn't ready yet, not quite, but I was closer than I'd been. The couple moved on and I bought my tomatoes, my bread, my fresh basil. Small pleasures, simple joys, the quiet rebuild of a life. That evening I made dinner for myself. Nothing fancy, pasta with fresh sauce, salad, good wine. Ate at my table by the window watching the city lights come on. My phone buzzed. Text from Michael, Mom's birthday next month. Family dinner, you should come. Bring someone if you want. Bring someone. The thought didn't panic me like it would have a year ago. I'll be there. Just me for now, but I'll be there. Good. She misses you. I miss her too. I finished my dinner, cleaned up, settled on the couch with a book. This was my life now. Quiet, independent, rebuilding. Not what I'd imagined at 38. Not the life I'd planned with Elena. But it was mine. And increasingly that felt like enough. 3 years after the rooftop. The day started like any other. Morning workout, shower, coffee, commute to the office. I'd fallen into rhythms that sustained me. Predictable, comfortable, safe. Safety had become paramount. After the chaos of betrayal, I craved stability. My calendar showed a full day. Client meetings, document reviews, a consultation with an attorney about a particularly complex case. Standard fare. At 10 a.m., my assistant buzzed. Mr. Chen, your 11 o'clock is here early. Should I ask them to wait? Who is it? A Mr. David Park, new client referral. Send him in. I can start early. The man who entered was nervous, fidgeting with his watch, eyes darting around my office. Mid-40s, well-dressed, wedding ring glinting. Mr. Park, I'm Marcus Chen. Please have a seat. Thank you for seeing me. I wasn't sure. I don't know if you can help. Why don't you tell me what's going on? He sat, took a breath. My sister, she's being financially abused by her husband. He controls all the money, gives her an allowance, tracks every purchase. She has no access to their accounts. She wants to leave, but she's terrified she'll end up with nothing. Not what I expected. This wasn't infidelity. This was economic control. Tell me more. He laid out the situation. His sister Grace had been married for 15 years. Gradually, her husband had taken over all finances. What started as he's better with money became complete control. She couldn't make purchases without permission, didn't know their net worth, had no credit in her own name. She's finally ready to leave, David said, but she's scared. He's hidden everything. She doesn't even know if they have savings. Does she suspect he's hiding assets? She's certain of it. He talks about investments, property, but she's never seen documentation. He won't let her. Financial abuse, another form of betrayal, different from infidelity but equally destructive. Control masquerading as care. I can help, I said, but I'll need to work with her directly. She needs to be part of this process, She's afraid to come in, afraid he'll find out. I understand. Let me give you information to pass along. She can contact me when she's ready. I gave him my card, explained my process, assured him of confidentiality. After he left, I sat thinking about Grace's situation. Different from mine, but the themes echoed. Deception, control, the weaponizing of trust. Marriage could be beautiful. It could also be a cage. Grace contacted me a week later. Fearful voice calling from a friend's phone. Mr. Chen, my brother said you might help. I can try. Would you feel comfortable meeting? I could come to you if that's easier. Could you? He monitors my car's mileage. Jesus, the level of control. Of course, give me a location and time. We met at her friend's house. Grace was thin, anxious, flinching at sounds. 15 years of financial abuse had worn her down to essentials. Thank you for coming, she said. Thank you for reaching out. That took courage. I explained what I could do. Trace assets, uncover hidden accounts, build a financial picture that would protect her in divorce. She listened intently. Will he know that you're looking? Not from me, I work discreetly, but you'll need to eventually file for divorce, and at that point, discovery becomes part of the process. He'll be so angry. Grace, if I may, you're describing a dangerous situation. Have you considered a safety plan? A domestic violence advocate? Her eyes welled. It's not like he hits me. Financial abuse is still abuse. Control is control. You deserve help, not just from me, but from professionals who specialize in these situations. She nodded, tears falling. I know, I'm so tired of being scared. I gave her resources, hotlines, advocates, shelters if needed. Then I got to work on her case. Tracing Grace's husband's hidden assets was like untangling a massive knot. He'd been meticulous. Shell companies, offshore accounts, properties and trust names. Sophisticated hiding that spoke to intent. It took me 6 weeks, but I found it all. Over $2 million in hidden assets. Money that should have been marital property, squirreled away where Grace would never find it. I presented her with the findings during another clandestine meeting. $2 million, she whispered, staring at the documentation. He told me we were struggling. That's why I couldn't buy new clothes. Couldn't visit my family. Couldn't. She broke down. I waited, giving her space for the grief and rage that truth brings. What do I do? She finally asked. Take this to your attorney. File for divorce. This evidence ensures you'll receive an equitable settlement. He can't hide what's been found. He'll be furious. Yes, but you'll be free. She looked at me with something like wonder. How did you learn to do this? The hard way. You were betrayed too? Differently, but yes. Does it get better? That question. Always that question from people in the midst of their pain. It does. Not immediately, not completely, but it does get better. She left with the documentation, resolve slowly replacing fear. I felt the familiar satisfaction of truth exposed, deception unraveled, but also something else, a deepening sense that this work mattered. That every client I helped was someone who might otherwise be trapped in lies. Grace's divorce was contentious but successful. Her husband fought viciously, but the evidence was irrefutable. She received a fair settlement, more than fair actually, given what he'd hidden. She sent me a handwritten letter afterward. Mr. Chen, I'm writing from my new apartment, my own apartment. First time in 15 years, I've had something that's truly mine. I decorated it exactly how I wanted. No permission needed. Such a small thing that feels so huge. You gave me more than financial evidence. You gave me my life back. The truth you found wasn't just about money. It was proof that I wasn't crazy, wasn't imagining things, wasn't ungrateful for questioning his control. I'm starting over at 43. It's terrifying and exhilarating. I'm learning to make my own decisions, trust my own judgment, spend money without fear. Thank you for seeing me when I was invisible. Thank you for finding what was hidden. Thank you for truth. With profound gratitude, Grace. I added her letter to my collection. Another voice confirming that truth, however painful, was ultimately liberating. A month after Grace's case concluded, something unexpected happened. I was at a professional event, networking mixer, the kind I attended out of obligation rather than enthusiasm. Standing by the bar, nursing a drink, counting minutes until I could politely leave. "Excuse me, are you Marcus Chen?" I turned, a woman, professional dress, warm smile holding her own drink. "I am. Have we met?" "Not formally. I'm Sarah Lynn. I'm an attorney specializing in family law. I've seen your work on several cases. You're developing quite a reputation. I hope that's a good thing." "Very good. Your evidence documentation is exceptional. Makes my job much easier." "Thank you. I try to be thorough." "It shows." She sipped her drink. "Would you be interested in coffee sometime? Professional conversation? I have some cases that might benefit from your expertise." "I'd like that." We exchanged cards, standard professional interaction, but something about her smile stayed with me. Coffee happened the following week. Professional at first, discussing cases, approaches, the intersection of financial investigation and family law. But conversation wandered into personal territory. "What brought you to this specialization?" she asked. "Personal experience. My marriage ended due to infidelity. I discovered it through financial patterns." "I'm sorry." "Don't be. It was devastating, but it led me here, doing work that matters." That's a healthy perspective. Took time to get there. She shared her own story. Divorced 5 years prior. A partner who'd prioritized his career over their relationship until there was no relationship left. "Different betrayal than yours," she said, "but betrayal nonetheless. Breaking promises comes in many forms." It does. We talked for 2 hours, then agreed to meet again. This time, not just professional. Dating Sarah was tentative at first. Both of us were cautious, scarred by past failures. We moved slowly, carefully, protecting the wounds we still carried. Our first real date was dinner at a quiet restaurant. Conversation flowed easily. We had professional overlap, but also personal compatibility. "I should tell you," I said over dessert, "I'm still working through things. Therapy, processing, all of it. I might not be the easiest person to date." "I appreciate the honesty. I'm the same. We're both works in progress." "That doesn't scare you?" "Scares me less than someone who thinks they're finished. Growth requires recognizing there's more work to do." Smart, grounded, self-aware. I liked her. 3.5 years post-rooftop, dating Sarah for 6 months. We were at my condo, cooking dinner together. She'd started keeping some things there. A toothbrush, a change of clothes. Small intimacies that felt significant. "Can I ask you something?" she said, chopping vegetables. "Of course." "Do you still think about her, Elena?" I considered the question carefully. Honesty was important between us. "Rarely, not with pain anymore. More like remembering a different version of myself. The man who was married to her feels like someone I used to know, not who I am now. That makes sense. Do you think about your ex? Sometimes, mostly with gratitude that I got out when I did. Staying in that marriage would have slowly erased me. We cooked in comfortable silence for a while. I want to introduce you to my family, I said suddenly. She looked up, surprised. Really? My mom's birthday is next month. Family dinner. I'd like you to come, if you're comfortable. She smiled, that warm smile that had first caught my attention. I'd like that. They'll probably interrogate you. My brother is protective. I'd expect nothing less. You're worth protecting. Simple words, but they landed somewhere deep. You're worth protecting. 3.5 years ago, I'd wondered if I was worth anything at all, if the betrayal reflected some fundamental inadequacy in me. It had taken time, therapy, self-reflection to understand that my worth wasn't determined by Elena's choices. And now, someone who knew my history, who'd seen my scars, still saw value. That was healing. The family dinner was predictably chaotic. My mother adored Sarah immediately. Michael was more cautious, pulling me aside. She seems great. But, no but, just be careful. You've been through a lot. I know, we're both careful. Neither of us is rushing. Good, you deserve someone who sees you clearly. I think she does. Then I'm happy for you. Brotherly approval, hard-won and meaningful. The evening ended with my mother hugging Sarah goodbye. Come back soon, she said. You're family now. Sarah looked at me, eyes bright. I'd like that. In the car ride home, she was quiet. You okay? I asked. Better than okay, your family's wonderful. They liked you. I liked them. She paused. Marcus, I need to tell you something. My heart clenched, old fears surfacing. What? I love you. The words hung in the car, the silence around them profound. I pulled over, unable to process and drive simultaneously. You don't have to say it back, she added quickly. I just needed you to know. These months with you you've shown me what healthy relationship looks like. Patient, honest, kind I love you. I looked at her, this woman who'd entered my life unexpectedly and become essential to it. Who knew my wounds and loved me anyway? Who was building something new with me? Carefully, deliberately. I love you too. The words felt foreign and familiar simultaneously, like a language I'd forgotten and was relearning. She smiled, tears in her eyes. Yeah. We sat there, in my car on a quiet street, letting the moment settle. 3.5 years ago, I'd locked my wife and her lover on a rooftop and driven away from everything I'd known. Now I was driving towards something new, something that felt like hope. The road wasn't straight, the journey wasn't complete, but I wasn't traveling alone anymore, and that made all the difference, 4 years after the rooftop. I stood on a different rooftop now, the one at Sarah's apartment building, accessible to all residents. String lights draped across a small garden area. A view of the city skyline, similar but different to the one where my old life had ended. Sarah was beside me, glass of wine in hand, watching the sunset paint the sky in oranges and pinks. What are you thinking? She asked. About rooftops, about endings and beginnings. She knew the story, all of it. The Thai food, the laughter from above, the locked door, the week of silence. She'd heard it early in our relationship. My confession of both pain endured and pain inflicted. Are you okay being up here? More than okay. I'm reclaiming it. This space, this view, they don't belong to that memory anymore. She squeezed my hand. I'm proud of you. For what? For healing, for growing, for becoming who you are now instead of staying who you were then. The past 4 years had been a masterclass in transformation, not the dramatic, sudden kind of transformation that makes good movie montages. The slow, deliberate kind that happens in therapy sessions, in quiet mornings, and honest conversations. I'd learned things about myself, that I was stronger than I'd believed, that betrayal didn't define me, that my capacity for trust, wounded but not destroyed, could heal. I'd learned things about love, that it required choosing daily, that it needed both vulnerability and boundaries, that healthy love didn't require sacrificing self-respect. I'd learned things about justice, that it wasn't always about punishment. That truth was its own form of justice, that consequences flowed naturally from choices, without needing to be engineered. Derek's consequences had found him. Bankruptcy, legal troubles, lost reputation. I hadn't orchestrated any of it. His own patterns had created his downfall. Elena's consequences were subtler but real. Last I'd heard through mutual acquaintances, she was still single, still in therapy, still working through the wreckage of who she'd been. I hoped she'd find her way to wholeness. Not for my sake, but for hers. Everyone deserves the chance to become better. My own consequences had been painful but ultimately transformative. Divorce, displacement, the death of a version of myself. But in that death, something stronger had been born. I have something to tell you, I said to Sarah, still watching the sunset. That sounds serious. It is, but good serious. She turned to face me fully. Okay, I'm listening. I've been thinking about us, about what we're building, about what I want for the future. Me too. I love you, Sarah. You know that. I do. I love you too. When I was married to Elena, I thought I knew what love was. Turns out I knew what comfort was, what routine was, what going through the motions looked like. But love, real love, requires showing up fully, being honest even when it's hard, choosing each other daily. That's what we do. It is, and I want to keep doing it, for a long time, forever if you'll have me. Her eyes widened. Marcus! I reached into my pocket and pulled out a small box. Her hand went to her mouth. I'm not doing this because I'm trying to replace what I lost. I'm doing this because you helped me discover what I'd never actually had. Real partnership, honest love, mutual respect. I opened the box. Simple ring, elegant. I'd chosen it carefully, knowing her preference for understated beauty. Sarah Lynn, will you marry me? Tears streamed down her face. Are you sure? After everything? I'm sure, not despite everything, but because of it. I know what I want now. I know what I'm worth. And I know that what we have is real. She laughed through her tears. Yes, absolutely yes. I slipped the ring on her finger. Perfect fit. She kissed me, and the city lights sparkled below us, and the sunset faded into twilight, and everything felt exactly right. We married the following spring. Small ceremony, close friends and family only. Michael was my best man. Grace, my former client who'd become a friend, attended with her new partner. Janet sent her congratulations from across the country where she'd relocated. My mother cried happy tears. I knew you'd find your way back, she whispered during our dance. You're too good a man not to. Sarah looked radiant in a simple white dress. When I saw her walking toward me, something in my chest released. The last knot of tension, of fear, of waiting for the other shoe to drop. This was real, this was safe, this was chosen. Our vows were personal, honest. I vow to choose you every day, I said, to be honest even when honesty is hard, to value your trust as the precious gift it is, to build with you instead of beside you, to be the partner you deserve. Sarah's turn. I vow to see you clearly, not just who you are, but who you're becoming, to hold space for your growth and expect you to hold space for mine, to love the whole you, including the parts still healing, to walk with you wherever the path leads. We exchanged rings, symbols of commitment that felt different this time. Not naive optimism, but informed choice. I now pronounce you husband and wife, the officiant said. We kissed and everyone cheered, and I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Uncomplicated joy. That night in our hotel room after the reception, we lay together in comfortable silence. How do you feel? Sarah asked. Happy, really fully happy. Me too. I keep waiting for anxiety, for the fear to kick in, but it's not there. Maybe because this is different. We're different. We are. Marcus? Yes. Thank you. For what? For being brave enough to try again. For not letting what happened before close you off permanently. For choosing to love even though you knew how much it could hurt. I pulled her closer. Thank you for being patient with me, for understanding that I came with baggage. for loving me through the unpacking. That's what partners do. Partners, yes, 5 years after the rooftop. I sat in my office reviewing a new case. Client suspected her husband of hiding assets. Familiar territory. My practice had grown substantially. Sarah and I occasionally worked cases together, her legal expertise complementing my financial investigation skills. We'd help dozens of people navigate the murky waters of marital deception. But we'd also started something new. Workshops for people rebuilding after relationship betrayal. Teaching the skills I'd learned, how to process, how to heal, how to trust again. Truth isn't just about evidence, I tell participants. It's about being honest with yourself, about what happened, about your role in it, about who you want to become. The workshops were popular. People hungry for guidance from someone who'd walked the path. Sarah was pregnant, 3 months along, early still. We'd agreed to wait until marriage to build our foundation strong before adding to it. You're going to be a great father, she'd said when the test came back positive. What makes you think that? Because you understand the importance of showing up, of being present, of building trust. I hope she was right. I'd certainly learned what not to do, what absence and deception cost. Maybe wisdom came from understanding failures as much as modeling successes. I kept the file I'd compiled during that week in the motel. Not out of bitterness, that had long faded, but as reminder of how far I'd come. Sometimes when facing a difficult case or feeling the old fears surface, I'd look at it. At the spreadsheets documenting Elena's affair, at the letter I'd written to myself in that dingy motel room. You are enough. This wasn't about your inadequacy. Past me had been right. It wasn't about inadequacy. Elena's choices were about her demons, her patterns, her wounds. I'd been collateral damage in her self-destruction, but I'd rebuilt, stronger, wiser, more whole. The file stayed in the storage unit, a chapter closed but not forgotten. Its lessons integrated into who I'd become. 6 years after the rooftop, our daughter was born on a Tuesday afternoon. We named her Hope. Cliché? Perhaps, but accurate. Hope for the future we were building. Hope for the love we'd chosen. Hope that pain could transform into purpose. I held her in the hospital room, tiny and perfect, and felt tears streaming down my face. What's wrong? Sarah asked, concerned. Nothing's wrong. Everything's right. More right than I ever imagined it could be. She's beautiful. She's ours. I looked at my daughter, this new life born from a love built on honesty, patience, and second chances. She knew nothing of rooftops or betrayals, of Thai food cooling on counters, or silence as strategy. She was pure beginning. I'm going to tell her someday, I said. Tell her what? About what happened, about how I almost lost myself but found my way back, about how her mother and I built something real from the ashes of something false. That's a heavy story for a child. Not heavy, honest. She'll learn that pain is part of life, but it doesn't have to define you. That trust, once broken, can be rebuilt, carefully, deliberately, with the right person. That truth, even when it hurts, is always better than lies. Sarah smiled. Our little truth seeker. Hope for truth. I love that. Hope gurgled in my arms, unaware of the weight of her name, the significance of her existence. She was simply alive, present, here. And so was I, more present than I'd ever been. 7 years after the rooftop, I was helping Hope toddle around our backyard when my phone buzzed. Email notification. From Elena. I stared at the name, surprised. We hadn't communicated in years, not since those brief civil exchanges after the divorce. I opened it with curiosity rather than dread. Marcus, I debated whether to send this. We haven't spoken in so long, and I wasn't sure if reaching out would be welcome, but I felt compelled. I heard through mutual connections that you're married with a child. I wanted to say congratulations. You deserve happiness. You deserved it when we were together and I failed to provide it. That failure haunts me still, though my therapist says I need to forgive myself eventually. I've been working these 7 years on myself, on understanding why I destroyed what we had. I'd say I've made progress, though the work is never really done, is it? I'm writing because I wanted to thank you. Thank you for handling our divorce with dignity. Thank you for not destroying me when you had every right to. Thank you for letting me walk away with my ability to rebuild intact. You showed me what grace looks like, even in the face of betrayal. I didn't appreciate it then. I was too busy drowning in my own shame. But I see it now. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I don't think I've earned that. But I wanted you to know that your kindness in the midst of crisis mattered. It's part of why I've been able to heal. I hope your wife knows how lucky she is. I hope your child knows what kind of father they have. I hope your life is full of the joy you deserve. With respect and gratitude, Elena. I read it twice. Something in my chest released. Not forgiveness exactly, that was too big, too complicated. But acknowledgement, recognition, closure. She'd grown, not into someone I wanted in my life, but into someone who could see clearly what she'd done and own it. That was something. I didn't respond. There was nothing to say. Our chapter had ended, decisively and finally, but I felt at peace. Sarah called from the house. "Dinner's ready." "Coming." Hope grabbed my hand, pulling me toward the house. "Daddy, come." "I'm coming, sweetheart." I let my daughter lead me inside, to my wife, to our meal, to our life. The life I'd built from the ruins of the one that had collapsed. That night, after Hope was asleep, Sarah and I sat on our porch. Evening ritual, unwinding, reconnecting, being present with each other. "You seem thoughtful," she observed. "Elena emailed me." Sarah's eyebrows rose. "Oh?" I summarized the message. Sarah listened without judgment. "How do you feel about it?" "Peaceful, like a final closing of that chapter." "Do you want to respond?" "No, there's nothing left to say." "Good, that's healthy." We sat in comfortable silence. "You know what I realized?" I said. "What?" "That night on the rooftop, when I saw them, when everything shattered, I thought it was the worst moment of my life. And now? Now I see it was the moment everything began. The moment I stopped living a lie and started living truth. It hurt like hell, but it also set me free. The wound that became the door." "Exactly." Sarah took my hand. "I'm glad you walked through it. Otherwise, I wouldn't have you." "I wouldn't have me either. Not this version. This version was forged in that fire." "I love this version." "I love this version too." We watched the stars appear, one by one, creating their own light in the darkness. Bioluminescent, I thought, like those jellyfish I'd wanted to watch in that documentary 7 years ago. Creating light because the world offers none. I'd created my own light, from pain, purpose, from betrayal, wisdom, from loss, gain. The rooftop had been where my old life ended, but this porch, this woman, this life, this was where my real life had begun, and it was beautiful. More beautiful than anything I could have imagined, standing in that Thai restaurant parking lot, tie loosened, heart unknowingly about to break. The truth had hurt, but the truth had also set me free. And freedom, it turned out, looked a lot like hope.